Yes. What's happening, everybody? It's been a minute, right? We haven't seen each other in a little while here, but I'm back. It's time for Just a Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We are going to be breaking down all 11 fights on the UFC Vegas 80 card coming up this Saturday, headlined by Grant Dawson versus Bobby King Green. We're going to try to find ways to get some winning bets in here on these bookies, stack cashed tickets like flapjacks, make these bookies cry, and make ourselves some money in the meantime here. And last week there were no fights. 2 weeks ago, I was planning on doing content, but went to Greece. And then when I got there, ESPN Plus didn't work. None of the gambling sites or DraftKings was available. And there was really no way for me to finish researching the fights, so I didn't do any content. So first time that I've seen you guys in about 3 weeks. And on top of that, I didn't even do the show last night when I normally do it, because now that I'm back from Greece, I'm still not on a normal sleep schedule here. I'm falling asleep at like 7:30 or 8 p.m. right now. So I've got to start figuring out how to stay up a little bit later here, night by night, so I can get back on the normal schedule that all you guys are used to. But it is a special Wednesday afternoon at noon Central Time version here of Just a Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, and we're going to break down these fights. I'm looking forward to getting into it with you guys. 2 weeks ago, the Fiziev versus Gamrot card. I was planning on placing more bets when I got to Greece. I thought Bet Online would work because it's an offshore book, but they've got it blocked there. So I was just stuck with the bets that I had 1.15 units on the Dan Ige scorecards equals no action. That bet pushed because the fight went to decision. And then I had 1 unit on the under 1.5 rounds for Brundage versus Malkoon at plus 210. Disqualification, blows to the back of the head, stopped that fight. I cashed it. So up 2.1 units. We'll take it. That's 3 winning events in a row, 2.1 units, 2.21 units, and 2.31 units. So we're on a little bit of a winning streak here. Got to keep it going this week. Interesting card. I already have 5 tracked bets. There will be another one that I will be adding once the props start to open up on other books like DraftKings and William Hill and FanDuel. But we got a lot to talk about here. I've missed you guys. It's good to be back here. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We've got, let's see. This was me from last night, because I really did plan on doing this show last night at 10 o'clock Central Time. And about 8:30, I realized that not only was I not even going to stay awake until 10, but the chances of me being able to talk for 2 hours about these fights was absolutely nil. So that is why we're not doing it at the usual time. Your Uncle Weezy could not stay up. And my guy Eli was like, he was not happy 12 hours early. He was planning on doing it when he normally watches it, which is when I normally do it. But here we are. 16 of you guys already in here at not the normal time. I appreciate each and every one of you. We got Corey Mann in the room saying, let's get it. Thank you for watching, Corey. We got my guy Martin Dermov, big printer MMA, in here saying, oi, I hope you ate your body weight worth of tzatziki, saganakia, souflakia, moussaka, lamb, lucumades, and drank a gallon at Ruzo, because that's what I would have done. Hope you had a great trip. It was an amazing trip, Martin. I know that you're a Bulgarian. Bulgaria is right above Greece. Beautiful part of the world over there, and I had never been there before. 3 of my 4 grandparents were born in Greece. You know, it is really where my forefathers come from, and it was a country that I had never had the privilege of seeing before. Got to hang out in Athens for 3 or 4 days, then went to the island of Crete, which is absolutely breathtaking, and spent a little over a week there. So about 11 days total in Greece, and it was amazing. We were eating souvlaki every night. I'm not a moussaka guy. I am a pasticcio guy. You know, you got that bechamel sauce, you got the pasta, the beef. Oh my God, one of my favorite dishes, pasticcio. So I had some pasticcio, I had some souvlaki, I had some pork chops, I had a lot of some Greek salads that were just amazing, and ripe tomatoes. Oh my God, the food in Greece is absolutely phenomenal. And it's not a terribly expensive place to have a vacation either. So had a beautiful villa, a pool, a hot tub, a pool table, an elevator in the place that we were staying in. It was amazing. So what a great trip. I'm happy to be back breaking down these fights now, but that was a much needed break after 17 straight weeks of UFC. And Martin loves Greece, as do I now, as I've finally had the chance to see it and spend some time there. We got Dims in the room saying, "Oi, finally catching one live. Greetings from the Netherlands. Happy to have you in here. I knew it would be cool doing this show at noon Central Time because a lot of people who would normally not be up when this show is live will get a chance to watch it live. So I welcome all the first-time live viewers in here. We've got Justin Villegas in the room saying, I'm almost home. Don't start. Can't hear. Had to start, my friend. Had to start, but I've only been going for a few minutes. We got Jeff K in the room saying, whoa. We got Brandon Stelly saying, oi, Weezerton. What's up, Brendan? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got Pickle Kush in the room saying, I got the kid down for Jay. There you go, man. Get that kid down. Get that kid to take a nap. Now we can talk some fights here, Pickle Kush. We got Jeff K saying, Nuna kebab plus JTT. There you go, man. Here we go. Delicious. Zero Mieto saying he misses Greece. It is, I was so privileged to be able to go there and see that beautiful country. Crete is amazing. If you guys have never been there, what a great place to have a vacation. We were in Panormos in Crete. The restaurants right on the beach. Fresh seafood. I mean, it was just absolutely fantastic. Yes, Freak in the room saying, I'm in, let's go. Scottsdale, Arizona is watching you. You know, when I was a kid, I got lost on Camelback Mountain while we were in Scottsdale. Long story. Maybe it'll be a story time with Uncle Weezy at one time. I think it was like 6 or 7 years old when we were on vacation, went climbing on Camelback Mountain, and my brother just kept going to the point where like we didn't know where he was anymore. My dad went to go look for him, left me alone on the mountain, and they didn't come back for like 2 hours. I was pretty much convinced that my parents, or my dad actually, and my brother had just left me there. I was too young to not know what that, to just stay where I was and not venture. But then I wound up saying, all right, well, I got to go find my mom. I know she's at a shopping mall in Scottsdale. So I start going down the mountain, hit a loose stone, fall down the mountain. I was covered with bruises and cuts when my dad finally found me. Camelback Mountain fucking sucks. So I am not a fan of Scottsdale, Arizona, not because it's a shit town, not because there's bad people there, just because your Uncle Weezy's got some bad memories from his youth, thanks to Camelback Mountain. Jester in the room saying, Weezy in the nighttime, Weezy in the daytime. I'll take Weezy anytime. Hey, we're doing it a little bit different this week while I get my sleep schedule here back into America range instead of Greece range. I appreciate you for hanging out. Pickle Kush saying, got the kid down for a nap. Let's go. I got this video cross-posted in Reddit. There we go. Appreciate you, man. I don't know anything about Reddit, so any kind of posting in Reddit is going to get to people who have never seen me before. So I appreciate that. We got Snerius in the room saying, middle of my workday and still wouldn't miss this. There we go. Hey, we're going to be working right here too. Working on ways to find stack cash tickets like flapjacks for this card. And I think I've got some ways. Greek food is goated. It absolutely is. Badass jacket, says my guy Mark. Okay, I appreciate you, man. This belonged to my grandfather. A nice smoking jacket from the old Marshall Fields on Michigan Avenue that no longer exists, back when my grandparents were here in Chicago. Dick's Insider in the room saying, good afternoon, Prophet Weeziah. What did you have for lunch today? I'm very curious. So I haven't had lunch today. It's noon. What I did was I woke up at 5:30 a.m. because that's the schedule that I'm on when I normally wake up at around 10 a.m. So I'm a little bit behind. So what I did was, since my girlfriend is not back from Greece yet, and because of that, and we've been out of town for so long, our refrigerator is completely empty. I slummed it, and I went over to McDonald's and got 2 sausage biscuits. That was like my breakfast this morning. And then lunch, after the show's over, I'm going to venture out into our beautiful city here, which isn't nearly as beautiful as Greece, and find some food that won't be nearly as good as the Greek food that I had a couple days ago. But yeah, man, that was it. 2 sausage biscuits. Absolutely horrible food and life choice for your Uncle Weezy this morning. Pickle Kush saying, if you guys haven't looked up Uncle Weezy's story time, check them out. His origin stories is as good as any TED Talk. Bet on yourself. Yeah, that's a very special story time with Uncle Weezy that's from over a year ago. When Brady and Lou and Monk and I were starting the MMA Engine YouTube channel. And yeah, it's a very interesting story. It's kind of like how I came to do this, and it's still up on the channel, so check it out. A very special story time with Uncle Weezy. How are the Greek women, Weezy? I mean, they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. I was not shocked when we went to the beach that there was just a ton of eye candy there at all times. So yeah, absolutely. Greek women, thumbs up, 10 out of 10. Absolutely loved it. J Bone said, my bitch ass said I would catch it live, and here I am super distracted with ACA fights, shaking my head. Oh, I didn't know ACA was even on right now, but yeah, that's the thing. When you start doing things at different times, you're not really aware what you're going to be up against. We got Jeff saying, highly recommend Nuna Kebab. Persian food is on the same level as Greek. Yeah, I mean, it comes from kind of like the same origins. Are you at Noon Kebab on Kedzie? Because I think I've seen a Noon Kebab there on Kedzie, like near like Wilson and Lawrence there. I tried and failed to get into the Contender Series last week. No longer open to the public. Oh, no kidding. Interesting. You were in Vegas and you tried to get okay. Oh, that's wild, because I know it always looks like there's a pretty small crowd there, but I wonder how many people that aren't related or they're with one of the fighters can actually get in to watch those things. I don't know. Oh yeah, the Kedzie location, the main one. I'm not far from there. Yeah, dude, I'm not far from there either, dude. I'm over by like Diversey in California. So yeah, I've taken quite a few rides down Kedzie, and my grocery store, Harvest Time Foods, is right over there on Lawrence. So yeah. All right, you guys, let's get to work here, man. We've got 11 fights to break down. The address to the Patreon where you're going to be able to find the stats that we go to every week on this show, like you see right there. You can get these stats on patreon.com/Uncle Weezy. $10 a month for the dynamic spreadsheet that you see that not only has the stats for each fighter, but how it compares to the divisional averages. So you can find out where fighters are better than average according to their division, below average, right on. And it has all the stats that you could possibly put on one page for each fighter so that you can match them up side by side to see who's got the advantages where, and do your own research instead of just watching people like me talk about our opinions, because at the end of the day, it's just opinions. So if you like to do your own research, you like looking at analytics, where we've got the prop template here with all the possible bets for fight doesn't start round 2 for Morono Buckley. You can find the line, the implied probability of the line, the benchmark for that bet. 27.22% of the time, the fight doesn't start round 2 in 170-pound fights. And then how the implied probability compares to that number. You could see how many times Alex Morono, his 18 fights that have been scheduled for 3 rounds, didn't start round 2. How many times for Buckley they didn't. What the combined percentage of 5 of 28 is, 17.86%, and how that compares to the implied probability of the line so that you can determine whether you're overpaying or underpaying for these over-under bets, by also comparing them to all the analytics that we have available at our fingertips, because I've accumulated all this data. So check out the Patreon and hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Welcome to all the new viewers who haven't gotten to watch me live before. And leave me a comment down below. If you have any questions, if you have your favorite bets of the week, I'd love to hear what they are. And let's get into this card. We're going to start with the first fight of the night. The curtain jerker this week is going to be Montana de la Rosa, who is a -140 favorite, going up against JJ Aldrich, +120. The fight doesn't go to decision. Big time plus money number here at +275, as the bookies are planning for this one to go all 3 rounds. So we've got these stats up here, and let's first start talking about Montana De La Rosa's advantages in this spot. Now, she's going to be the bigger flyweight as JJ Aldrich formerly fought in the strawweight division. She's going to be 2 inches taller. She's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage over JJ here. And she's also 2 years younger than Aldrich. And both of these ladies started their pro careers on the very same day. You can find the length of the pro career. And you see here for JJ Aldrich, it's nine years, no months, and 21 days. And it's the exact same number here for Montana De La Rosa. Both of them fought in different organizations on their debut, but the length of the pro career is exactly the same length because they both debuted on the same day. And it's Montana, who's been more active as a pro, is she's got 3 more fights than JJ does, and she's got 12 more minutes in the pro cage compared to JJ. And Montana finishes fights. JJ Aldrich couldn't finish a glass of water. Montana has finished 9 of her 12 pro wins, 8 by submission, 1 by knockout, and she's also finished 4 of her 5 UFC wins, 3 by submission and 1 by knockout. So she's the far more dangerous fighter here, as JJ has only finished 1 of her 8 UFC wins. That came against Na Liang, who is awful, and she's only finished 3 of her 12 pro wins. So obviously, it's going to be Montana who's the much better chance of finishing this fight here, especially as JJ is 0 wins and 2 losses to the submission in her pro career, while Montana has 8 wins and 2 losses to the submission. So if Montana is able to get this fight to the ground, she should have success and could potentially find a finish. Montana is the better wrestler and grappler in this matchup, and her success depends largely on her ability to get fights to the ground. In Montana's 5 UFC wins, she's averaging 54.5% control time. But in her 4 losses and a draw, her control time number drops to 30%. So she really does depend on her grappling game to have success. Montana averages 1.94 takedowns per 15 minutes on 6.06 attempts, and she outcontrols her opponents 40% to 17%, winning over 70% of the control time positions her fights have been in, which is great considering her fights are in those positions over 57% of the time. And Montana's fought the better win-loss ratioed competition overall, according to my metric. The combined records of her opponents, 40 wins and 30 losses, which is a 1.33 ratio, compared to 50 wins and 48 losses for JJ Aldrich, which is only a 1.04 ratio. The common opponents are Ariane Lipski and Macy Barber. Montana beat Ariane Lipski while JJ lost to her, and Barber beat both of them, but Barber finished Aldrich and Montana lost to her by decision. So there's a little bit of MMA math. Most people don't care about that, but it's just one more indicator that we can talk about. And that MMA math is on the side of Montana De La Rosa in this matchup. Now, JJ Aldrich's advantages, she's going to be the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. She's got more UFC experience as she has 3 more fights and 60 more minutes of octagon time. And JJ should be the better striker at distance here. Her metrics aren't awe-inspiring, but her accuracy at 42% and defense at 64% at distance are both better than Montana's by about 13%. Plus, she is the southpaw, so I do like JJ's minute-winning abilities at range better than Montana's. And JJ's fights stay at distance striking range where she wants to be, over 73% of her octagon time, and she's an efficient grappler, winning 2/3 of her control time positions, despite being taken down 12 times by her opponents compared to 9 takedowns for JJ. So, those are pretty good efficiency numbers. When your opponents have 12, you have 9, but you're out controlling them at a 2-to-1 ratio. It shows that you have a good get-up game when you're the one being taken down. You have good takedown defense when your opponents are trying to take you down, and that you're spending more time getting that clinch control and top control time when you're the one actually getting the takedown. So while, she's getting less takedowns than her opponents, the efficiency is definitely there. So one thing that JJ Aldrich really does very well is when her opponents want to take her down, she excels. Her wrestling is best when done in reverse, when she's using it to defend. We saw in the Lipski fight when she was the one who was at the striking disadvantage and had to be the one to actually go out there and get the takedowns, that it didn't end up well for her. We can't count on JJ to be able to successfully offensively wrestle, but when she seems to kind of do her best work is when she's defensively wrestling, stopping the takedowns, not allowing her opponent to get their game plan going. And then as a result of frustrating her opponents by, making them unable to take her down and hold her down, she winds up doing the better work on the feet. And JJ's UFC wins are better according to my metric than Montana's, but neither lady has impressive wins. For Montana, it's Christina Marks, Rachel Ostovich, Nadia Kassem, Mara Romero Barella, and Ariane Lipsky. And for JJ Aldrich, it's Chan Mi John, Danielle Taylor, Pollyanna Viana, Lawrence Princess Tiger Mueller, Courtney Casey, Vanessa Demopoulos, who was up a weight class on short notice, Jillian Robertson, and Liang Na. So like the best wins there are like Lipsky and Jillian Robertson, really. So neither one of these ladies really has a lot of signature wins, but JJ's UFC wins are a little bit better according to my metric. So even though these ladies are both well-rounded veterans, it's clearly kind of a striker versus grappler matchup. It's easy to see Montana having success if she gets the fight to the ground and gets to dominant positions, and it's easy to see JJ having success if she stops Montana's takedowns and stays at distance striking range. JJ is taking this fight on 2 weeks' notice. She's filling in for Stephanie Egger, which is an important factoid due to the stylistic difference in opponents. And Montana was training for a judo player, an ADCC finalist in Egger. Now she's facing a southpaw boxer who uses her wrestling in reverse. Montana does her best work when she's winning the wrestling exchanges, getting on top and winning minutes with that top control, ground and pound, and attempting to set up submissions. And JJ has solid takedown defense with a good get-up game, so it could be hard for Montana to find success with her wrestling here. Outside of JJ's debut versus Juliana Lima, where she was taken down 4 times and controlled for 7 minutes in that fight, Aldrich has never been controlled for more than 2 minutes and 1 second in any fight, despite being taken down 8 times on 29 attempts over that 12-fight span. JJ also does well when she can dominate in the clinch exchanges and stuff takedowns, as she's 7 wins and 0 losses in the UFC when she accrues more than 100 seconds of control time. And she's 1 win and 5 losses when she gets less than 100 seconds of control time. So she's going to need to use that wrestling in reverse, put Montana's back against the cage, and dominate her in the clinch exchanges, just like Myra Bueno Silva did, just like Macy Barber did. If the trend continues of JJ being able to stop takedowns and win in the clinch like she has in the past, I'm going to have to pick her to win this fight by decision, you guys. I think it's on Montana to get these takedowns. She's going to have to get them. And if she's unable to get them and hold her down, I think JJ is going to be credited by the judges for looking better optically, and she's probably going to be the better striker while this is at distance striking range. So I'm going to go with the underdog here and pick JJ Aldrich on short notice to win this fight by decision. I just don't like the opponent change either. I hate it when you see De La Rosa's, training for Stephanie Egger, who's a completely different stylistic matchup than JJ Aldrich. Now you're going from an orthodox to a southpaw. You're going from a grappler to more of a striker. So I think JJ is going to do what she does, which is win minutes, stop takedowns, keep the fight standing, and win a greasy-ass decision here. So JJ Aldrich to win by decision is going to be the pick, you guys. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got my guy Moy's Audio saying bet is JJ by decision. Better head strike volume. They are or have been teammates, so JJ knows her takedown entries. Montana takes damage on face easy, so optics will favor JJ. Yeah, I agree with all of that. I'm picking her to win by decision as well after I taped it. My pre-tape lean was to be on the better grappler in De La Rosa, the younger fighter, the bigger fighter, the better finisher, all those things. But I do think that it's going to be JJ getting the win here. Dixon got Montana at -102. Weezy, really hoping she comes through. Glad to hear you like her. Yeah, no, she's a good fighter, and I think that this is going to be a very close fight. I am picking JJ here, but you got a much better number at -102 than where she is now. Now that we're talking about it, she's -140. Now we're talking right there about about a 7 or 8% difference in implied probability, which is kind of a big deal. So congratulations on doing your job and getting the number at the right spot, because now you can actually get out for free money. I feel like the UFC always has wanted to push her, but they've definitely given her legit challengers to see if she's for real. This might be her coming out party if she can get a sub. Yeah, a sub or a ground and pound knockout would be huge. And we know that Montana is the more dangerous finisher here. She's definitely the fighter that is way more likely to finish this fight. And oh no, don't flop on me, Weezy. Yeah, man, I did. Tony Montana de la Rosa. Let's go, man. Tony, that would be a great nickname. Tony Montana and then de la Rosa. Tony Montana, king of the American dream. He really made something of himself, didn't he, ladies and gentlemen? Let's talk about this next fight, all right? It is going to be Aori Qileng at -110 going up against Johnny Munoz Jr. -110. Pick 'em fight here. Fight doesn't go to decision, about 60% implied probability here at -150. Let's get the stats up on the screen for you guys here. Oh, wow. I messed that up big time. That is not what we're going to talk about here. We are going to talk about Nate Maness versus Mateus Mendonca. Did they change the order of these fights? Yeah, it looks like they are going to go with Qileng as being the second fight, but I prepared this that we were going to be talking about Nate Maness here. So we're going to do that fight. It is going to be Maness versus Mendonca. Damn it, I hope I didn't mess that up in the man, I might have messed that up in the timestamps as well, but I won't timestamp it till later. So we're going to do it like this. We're going to do it Maness versus Mendonca. We're going to first start talking about Nate Maness's advantages here. He's going to be the bigger dude. He's going to be bigger than any flyweight on the roster because he is the biggest flyweight on the roster. He's 4 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here over Mateus. Nate has the experience advantage. He's going to have 6 more pro fights, almost 90 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's got 6 more years as a professional fighter. He also has the UFC experience advantage with 4 more fights and over 30 more minutes of octagon time. Neither one of these guys has good striking metrics in the UFC thus far, but Nate's are better than Mateus's at this point, but Mateus's were only really available in the Javid Basharat fight. Nate's 4% more accurate, 21% more defensively responsible, and Nate has flashed power, landing 2 knockdowns in 5 UFC fights, landing a knockdown on 3.28% of the distance strikes that he's landed thus far. And Nate's been boxing since the age of 15, and his straight down the pipe punches and 4 inches of height and 1 inch of reach should serve him pretty well here at distance against a guy in Mendonca who really does block punches with his face. The guy's got pretty bad striking defense from what I've seen from him on tape. And Nate has the strength of schedule advantage as he's fought at a higher level for longer compared to Mateus. Now, Mateus is 7.5 years younger than Nate. He's got the better finish rate as a pro compared to Nate, 70% for Mateus, 57% for Maness. And he's never been finished as a pro, while Nate has been finished in 2 of his 3 losses. Strangely enough, Maness's only loss by decision came against a future champ in Umar Nurmagomedov. So it's weird that, other guys are finishing Nate Maness, but then he doesn't get finished by Umar Nurmagomedov. That's kind of an interesting little factoid. And I feel as if Mendonca will be the more explosive athlete here for sure. He's dangerous wherever the fight goes. He's 7.5 years younger than Nate. He's still fairly experienced and well-rounded for a guy his age. So while I feel like both guys can win moments here, I feel like it's going to be Mateus who's more likely to do that in this matchup. And on the feet, Mateus pressures relentlessly, and I love that. No matter what, there are very few strikers that are going to be more effective moving backwards than they are moving forwards or just standing in the pocket, standing in front of their opponent. He throws a lot of kicks, and he throws with reckless abandon, does Mateus. There has to be, he's there to be countered, though, and he's very easy to hit, but he trusts his chin, and he uses that pressure to back his opponents up to the cage where he can land big shots or enter on his takedowns, and he does both. And Mateus is pretty slick with his submissions. He's 4 wins and 0 losses to the submission in his career. And we saw him get close to getting a knee bar and a heel hook versus Basharat when Javid got on top. And Mateus has wins by rear naked choke, Kimura, triangle, and a cheeky arm lock in the Rodriguez fight. When this fight gets to the ground, I do think whether Mateus is on top or on the bottom, that he's going to be the more dangerous submission grappler in this spot. Now, this is an interesting fight. Mendoza's fought his entire pro career at 135, and this is going to be his first cut to 125. And this is going to be Nate's second cut to 125. Nate's the tallest flyweight on the roster at 125. He's huge and long for the division. Both of these guys are well-rounded, but I rate Nate's boxing and striking higher, and I like Mateus' submission grappling better. Both of these guys are dangerous finishers. Right now, Mateus is a minus 260 favorite, which means for plus 220, you can get the taller, longer, more experienced and tested as a pro guy with the sharper striking and whose counters should easily catch a guy like Mendoza coming in who pressures so much and is so easily there to be countered. I think Mateus' best chance of winning minutes here is in the clinch and on the ground. And I definitely rate Mateus' moment-winning ability more in the grappling exchanges, as he's got a very, he's a very opportunistic submission grappler. And we just saw Maness get caught in a high elbow gilly by Tagir Ulanbekov. I think this is going to be a close fight, though. I bet the under 2.5 rounds here at plus 115 for one unit, as both guys are making a very, very difficult cut down to 125. And both guys get hit, and both are solid finishers. I like the plus 220 number on Maness. He could stuff the takedowns. He could do better work at range, and it's entirely possible he has the better conditioning, and he can get takedowns in top control of his own, as we saw Basharat do that versus Mendoza in his debut. Too many unanswered questions thus far about Mendoza to lay this amount of juice on him, especially with this being his first cut to 125 against a bigger opponent. I could see this fight going either way, and I won't be sure about my pick until I see both guys on the scale. But for now, I'm going to pick Nate Maness actually to win this fight by second round KO. I think both of these guys' durability is going to be seriously compromised. But I'm making this Maness pick, you guys, with very, very little confidence. I want to be clear about that. I think Mendoza is a phenomenal prospect. He's very well-rounded for considering how young in the game he is. Dude, if you look at this guy's Tapology profile, or wait, we can just go to my stats, actually. Look at this dude. Now, this is his regional scene experience here. He fought on July 13th, 2019. Then he fought 2 weeks later, July 27th, 2019. Then he fought 2 weeks later on August 11th, 2019. Then he fought 2 weeks later, not even 12 days later, August 23rd, 2019. Then he fights 3 weeks later against Waston Castro da Silva. And then he fights 1 week later against Hudson Kaliokan. And then it's about 6 weeks until he fights Paulo Enrique Rodriguez. He gets wins in all of those fights. And then I heard his coaches like tricked him to going into the basement of the gym, and then they pushed him down the stairs and they said, "We're not going to let you fight for 6 months," because he's just too crazy and he wanted to keep getting in there. So they locked him in the basement. They put a heavy bag down there and a treadmill, and they let him just kind of train by himself. And then they let him out of the basement on August 31st, 2020 to fight Victor Nato, and he shaved his ass in 80 seconds. So this guy has been very busy, but now he's fighting at a more sustainable pace. He's in the UFC. and I think he's a very good prospect. But he's young. He's still fairly untested. I mean, he looked pretty good in the Javid Basharat fight, and that's a brutal UFC debut to get. But in my opinion, them feeding Mendoza to Basharat, they wanted to see where this kid was at. I think that you don't feed a guy like that to Basharat unless you're really trying to find out where he is and how ready he is at his young age to climb that ladder. So yeah, I think Mendoza is a phenomenal prospect. I'm picking Maness to win by second round KO with very little confidence, but at least I know that Maness has made this cut before. At least I can count on his experience a little bit more, especially at this level. He's fought the higher level guys. He's been a little bit more tested. He can come back from adversity. But I need to see both of these guys on the scale before I can do anything else. I would recommend that you guys get on the violence bet, even where it's at right now. These guys are both very good finishers, and these guys are both making very dangerous cuts down to 125, where we know that their durability and ability to be able to take a punch is going to be compromised. So low confidence pick here, but I am going with the underdog in Nate Maness. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got my guy, the MMA Upside, in the room saying, "Oi, Uncle Weezy, what's up? Thanks for hanging out here." We got Dixon say, "Gonna be key to watch the weigh-ins to see how Nate looks. He cuts so much." Yeah, and Mateus has never cut to 125 either. And he's kind of at the age where you go up in weight class, not down. So I mean, Mateus could be really there's a big possibility that he is not going to be able to perform anywhere close to optimally after this cut, which means that you don't lay minus 260 on that type of a fighter. D Spearman's in the room. What's up, D? Weezy, I always watch your vids after they're live. Glad to catch a live again. Yeah, I do. I go so late that most people can't watch me. So I was excited to actually get this show going during the day today, so that I would be able to see some more people live that I don't normally get to catch. So thanks for hanging out, D. Appreciate you, brother. Cuban Assassin in the room saying happy Winslow Wednesday. Missed you, Weezy. It's good to be back, my man. It is good to be back, and it's good to see you. Shootbox Killers, yes. Mateus Mendoza, Shootbox Diego Lima product. And that is a camp where there is something in the water there. And those guys, what is in the water makes them pressure. It gives them a phenomenal durability and conditioning and ability to be able to just push a pace and break their opponents. Were all of those back-to-back fights at the same weight? I believe they were. I believe they were, because I looked and I saw that Mateus had never fought at flyweight. So all of those fights taking place at bantamweight. So maybe it is, maybe it won't be as bad of a cut for him, because that could be something very interesting to look at, because if he's able to make weight at 136 every 2 weeks, maybe he could actually cut down lower to 125. And we got Real Deal Prime in the room saying wrestling rules, and it sure does. And then we got Moy saying Nate has no business at 125. Yeah, I agree. I agree, man. And we better hurry up. Government doing that world electronic testing. Our devices are going to get destroyed. Oh boy. Yeah, we better hurry up with this show. Let's get on to the next fight, where we will be talking about the Greek girl, the pride of Greece, Vanessa Demopoulos at plus 275, going up against Kanako Murata at, wow, Murata's minus 325 here. A very big favorite. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 190 for this fight. Very interesting fight here. Grappler versus grappler. So let's first start talking about Vanessa Demopoulos here. She's got a small experience advantage here with 10 more minutes of cage time in almost 2 years less as a professional. So she's also been the busier fighter here, as Murata is coming off an over 2-year layoff after having her arm broken by the very handsome Hernandez. And then during that time off, tearing her ACL as well. So it's been a 2-year layoff here for Kanako Murata to get back to the UFC octagon since her loss to Virna Jandiroba. So, excuse me, guys. Let me just get a sip of water here. And Vanessa is also going to have the UFC experience advantage here with 3 more fights over 55 more minutes of octagon time. And she's the more durable fighter is Vanessa Demopoulos. She's never been finished in 14 professional fights and 5 pro losses. And she's shown that there isn't any quit in her and that her chin is absolutely legit. Murata has been finished in both of her pro losses, both of them by submission. However, it's listed as 1 KO and 1 submission due to the Jandaroba loss being stopped between rounds, so it was deemed a TKO. And Vanessa's the more opportunistic submission grappler, I believe, especially from guard. She's best off her back, and Murata is going to take her down. Vanessa's 4-0 to the submission in her career, and I feel as if it's her only chance to win this fight, as Kanako is a brilliant minute winner with her wrestling and top control. Now, Murata is almost 5 years younger than Vanessa Demopoulos, and she's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here, and she's an elite wrestler. She's 6 wins and 0 losses to the decision in her pro career, and that's because she does a phenomenal job of using her wrestling to win minutes. Kanako is out-controlling her UFC opponents 47.7% to 3%, winning almost 94% of the control time positions she's been in, and she won't have any problem taking Vanessa down, who most likely wants to work her submissions from guard. So I see Kanako easily being able to win minutes with her wrestling and top control in this spot. This is going to be a fun grappler versus grappler matchup. Kanako is a phenomenal wrestler, and her judo is also top-notch. The strawweight division is chock full of dangerous grapplers right now, like Tatiana Suarez, Mackenzie Dern, Virna Jandiroba, Carla Esparza, and Kanako Murata fits really well into that mix. Both Vanessa and Kanako are very dangerous with their submissions on the ground. Murata from top control and Vanessa from her guard. So I think both ladies will be dangerous on the ground. And on the feet, Vanessa throws heat. She might land something big or might overswing and make it easy for Kanako to get her down and get to a dominant position. Either way, I think the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 190 is very interesting here. I could see either fighter getting a KO or a submission. And this fight should take place on the mat where both ladies will be dangerous. I definitely favor Murata here. Her wrestling, top control, and submission game are all top notch. I think she's faced the tougher competition overall in their respective pro careers. I think Murata gets the finish here with that crushing top control. I'm picking Kanako Murata to be the first woman to finish Vanessa Demopoulos in her career, and I'm picking her to do it by 3rd round submission. I was a little bit concerned about Vanessa missing weight her last time out. We had never seen that before, and I'm just wondering if there was an injury in that fight or if there's something going on where she's having a hard time making the weight now that she's pushing 35 years old. As a matter of fact, she already is 35 years old. So, there could be something there. I think that maybe Kanako, when she gets on top, might be able to find her way to Vanessa's back, or might be able to find, with that crushing top control, like an arm triangle or something like that. So I'm picking Kanako to win this fight by 3rd round submission. And I also did place a bet, 1 unit, on the fight not to go to decision at plus 190. I just got a feeling somebody's going to get a finish here. So if we go here to Tapology, we are looking at Kanako Murata to win this fight by 3rd round submission over the little monster, Vanessa Demopoulos, the pride of Greece. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Moyes saying, looking forward to buying Greek perfumes. Are you really? I don't know any good ones, but I know that Moyes definitely has his finger on the pulse of what the hottest perfumes are, whether they're perfumes or colognes. For unisex even. This guy knows it all. The MMA Upside saying stripper power with T-Rex arms. What could go wrong? Yeah, dude, watch that Cynthia Arcio fight. Vanessa Demopoulos sends her to the land of wind and ghosts. It is an absolutely vicious knockout. So she, because she's got those short arms, man, when she hits hard. So She could land a big shot. You never know. She swings with heat. We got Kristen in the room saying, hello, Weezy in chat. Happy return to fights week. Yes, it's always good to have fights back, and I'm ready for it this week. Dixon saying, Weezy, call me a DGen, but I'm going to sprinkle that Vanessa armbar prop. Vanessa or MGM offers those specific props at crazy odds. Armbar from guard is totally in play. Yeah, I think that's how she gets it, right? Armbar from guard against Kanako Murata, who already has a compromised arm that's been surgically repaired. Got broken by Virna Jandiroba. Now, Virna is a higher level submission grappler than Vanessa Demopoulos. They're both black belts, but Virna is a multi-time world champion, BJJ player. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough road to hoe here for Vanessa Demopoulos. And I think the Kanako's grappling game is phenomenal. Real Deal Prime in the room is taking notes. What's up, man? We got Dixon saying, seeing Emily Ducote out Murata in multiple arm bars is a red flag. Yeah, Ducote's a BJJ brown belt in her own right. She's a very talented Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player. So, of course, when you're Kanako Murata and you're when you're fighting the way that you do, you're gonna wind up in a ton of arm bars. Of course, you're a wrestler. You're putting these hoes on their backs. They're gonna be offensive off their backs against a wrestler like her. They're gonna find them in those arm bars. But did Ducote finish any of those arm bars? Nope. She lost the fight by split decision. Ducote fight 4 years ago. We appreciate you, Weezy says Grateful Dude. Appreciate you, my man, for hanging out here. Let's get on to this next fight. The next one that we're going to talk about is Aori Qileng going up against Johnny Munoz Jr. This is a pick 'em, you guys, -110 apiece. The fight doesn't go to decision here at -150. I don't know what to think of this one, man. So let's first start talking about Qileng. He's far more experienced as a professional. The guy was fighting 7 to 10 times a year on the Chinese regional scene, but his pace recently has been a lot more reasonable and sustainable. He has 19 more professional fights than Munoz, 270 more minutes in the pro cage, and 2 less months as a pro. He's acquired 19 more professional fights in 4.5 hours of cage time more than Munoz. And he's done that in 2 less months as a pro. So this guy's been incredibly active as a professional, as Qileng. And he loves to stand and bang, and he throws with a lot of power. He's 8 wins and 1 loss to the KO in his career, while Munoz is 2 wins and 1 loss. So while this is standing, Qileng is going to be dangerous, and Munoz might be at a moment-winning deficiency while it's there. He sets a high pace, attempting 16.7 distance strikes per minute, 1.55 more than Munoz, and he lands 7.87 distance strikes per minute, which is 3 more per minute than Munoz lands at distance. Even though he's smaller and he's at a reach disadvantage here, I think it's possible Qileng could not only win the minutes, but also the moments while this fight is at distance striking range. Man, I love Qileng's lead uppercuts from both hands. They're fantastic. They're powerful. He stays long when he strikes, and he throws with really bad intentions. So while this fight is on the feet, I think Qileng's going to do a really good job here against Munoz. And according to my metric, Qileng's fought the better brand of competition at the UFC level. The combined UFC records of Qileng's opponents is 12 wins and 9 losses, while for Munoz, it's 9 wins and 11 losses. So I give Qileng the advantage there, despite the fact that both guys' wins are trash, as the combined UFC records of the 4 total guys that Munoz and Qileng have beaten, their combined UFC records are 0 wins and 9 losses. So Munoz, who's beaten Jamie Simmons and Ludovic Shalinian, and Qileng, who's beaten Jay Perrin and Cameron Else, all 4 of those guys never even got 1 UFC win. So we're both kind of waiting for Munoz or Qileng to get a win in the UFC against a guy that has actually won a UFC fight. And Qileng has 2 wins, and Johnny has 2 wins, but they're not against UFC level competition. So it's kind of hard to know what the strength of schedule metrics really mean here. Johnny Munoz, he's going to be the bigger dude. He's got the 2-inch height and a 2-inch reach advantage over Qileng. Munoz has the better finish rate as a pro overall. 75% finish rate for Munoz, while it's only 37% for Qileng. And in particular, Munoz is 7-0 to the submission in his career, while Qileng is 1 win and 2 losses to the submission in his career. So there's definitely a path here for Johnny Munoz Jr. If he's able to get this fight to the ground, get to a dominant position, that submission game is going to be looking pretty good for him to potentially finish this fight. And Munoz has the superior distance striking metrics due to the fact that he has a positive 1.9 distance striking differential compared to negative 2.04 for Qileng. And this is largely due to the fact that Munoz is way more defensively responsible at distance compared to Qileng. 72.5% distance striking defense thus far for Johnny Munoz, and it's only 51% for Qileng. So Qileng absorbing almost 10 distance strikes per minute that he spends at distance, while for Munoz, it's only 2.98. See that number here? 2.98 absorbed per minute at distance for Munoz, and it's 9.91. Because he's blocking punches with his face, sub 51% distance striking defense. So Munoz is going to find his opponent to be hittable here. We'll see what he can do with that. And Munoz is definitely going to be the better grappler here. I mean, he was born wearing a gi. He's a BJJ black belt in his early 20s or late teens. 7-0 to the submission in his career. He outcontrols his opponents by a little bit, 29.3% to 25.7%, getting 1.95 takedowns per 15 minutes on 8.94 attempts. So he stays very busy looking for these takedowns. And when he gets fights to the ground, he has the ability to be able to pass guard, get to his opponent's back, and hunt for submissions. Qileng has allowed over 25% control time to his UFC opponents. So I think Munoz would be really smart to go to the grappling early and often in this matchup. And I don't really know what to think of this fight. I don't think Munoz will settle for letting this fight take place at distance striking range due to how dangerous Aori is when it's there. And Qileng doesn't have great takedown defense at 55%. But even if he stops the takedowns, we know from watching tape that Munoz will flop to his back and work for submissions from his guard. So either way, whether or not Munoz gets the takedowns, I think this largely becomes a grappling match, which I think favors Munoz. My prop template loves the overs in this fight, but I didn't bet it because I could see either fighter getting a finish. I'm going to pick Johnny Munoz Jr. to win by second round submission, but with very little confidence in this spot. This fight is a pick'em for a reason. Neither one of these guys has beaten a UFC level opponent that really kind of like makes you look at it and say, oh, wow, maybe these guys can take the next step. They're both really on the fringe of a very deep and very talent-rich division here with the bantamweight division. So, going with Munoz, second round submission, but like I say, not with a lot of confidence here. So Johnny, submission, round 2 is the way I'm going here. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here after I get a little sip of water. All right. And we got my guy, Robert Saladino, ring-a-ding-ding, 1 p.m., great time for the middle-aged new dads. Let's go, dude. I can totally relate, man. Robert, when I was in Greece, we were there in a villa with 4 other couples, right? 2 of these couples had kids. One of them had an 18-month-old girl. The other one had a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 18-month-old girl. So just the energy that these parents have to have when your baby becomes old enough to walk and then just start to one of the kids that was 18 months old literally tried to kill herself about 17 different times. She's putting her head in deck chairs and trying to smash it down on top of her head. She's falling in the pool. She's trying to get into a 100-degree hot tub. She's running into things at full speed. She's stuffing things down her throat. She's putting her fingers in outlets. I mean, it never fucking stops. So big ups to all the parents out there who haven't let your children die yet, because just that is a tremendous accomplishment in my book. So thank you for the donation, Robert. Appreciate you for watching the show and for donating to the show, man. Big ups to you. MMA Upside saying, I've seen Munoz butt scoot. I just can't. No, I get it, man. I get it. I mean, but let's just, Aori Qileng is not Daniel Santos. This is going to be a step down in competition for him. Munoz sub, Chinese grappling is shit, says Moise Audio. And yeah, you're right. Glenbot saying, able to chat live. Let's go. My man Glenbot is in the house. We got MMA Upside saying, if Munoz goes to plus money, I'm on the other side. Otherwise, not touching it. Yeah, got it, man. Glenbot saying, what's up to Moise and Dixon? We got Helder in the room saying, yo, Weezy, say oi to Brazil, my friend. Oi to Brazil. Beautiful country as well. Great people. What's up to my man Helder checking in from Brazil. We got my guy Eli in the room saying, sure all. We got MMA Upside saying, got to get back to work. Have fun, GNs. Catch the rest later. Sup Kiwi says Glenbot. We got Kiwi saying sure all again. Glenbot saying Aori KO round 2 or Munoz sub round 2. So maybe fight ends in round 2. That's not a bad look. I could see this going to decision. I could see it finishing inside the distance. I didn't touch any of the time props here. Weezy, Munoz guaranteed a submission in his most recent Sherdog interview, sprinkling round 2. That could be interesting, man. We got my guy in the room saying oi to his unk. We got Real Deal Prime in there with the bird bed submission, bed lightning. I don't know, but we love you, brother. Still alive saying Real Deal Prime. We got Robert Saladino, 8 months and 3 years. I'm in my mid-40s, but I love it. There you go. Wow. Dude, you are... Oh my God, an 8-month-old and a 3-year-old. Whoo, in your mid-40s. That is salute, Robert. Salute. We got Moise in there waving to Glenn. We got Silky B saying, Weezy, glad to see you again, bro. Good to have you in here, Silky B. Glenbot waving. We got Helder saying, I'm not joking. I work for the UFC here in Brazil, and because of that, I can't bet. But I watch your show because of your analysis. The most complete of anyone who talks about MMA success. I appreciate you, Helder. Dude, I can always show you guys this. Like I say, I mean, the reason I couldn't do a show last week is because I don't, I'm not going to do it unless I do all the research, Like this is, I mean, I write out all these fights. This is, if you can see along the right edge here, there's 25 pages of notes that I've written out on my computer that I've got for every fight here on the cards. So yeah, man, I appreciate you saying that, Elder, because I do a lot of research for this show. I put a lot of work into it. I watch a ton of tape. I look at all the numbers. I try to leave no stone unturned. So I appreciate you saying that, man. That means a lot, dude. And we got Professor Chaos in the room saying, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Late to the show. Any thoughts on Dern versus Andrade? Yeah, I love Dern there. I think she's going to get the submission. It looks like Andrade at this point is just showing up for a paycheck. And I love the way that Dern is fighting. Her process is there for me. And she's pressuring. She's doing exactly what she needs to do to accentuate her positives and eliminate the negatives that are in her mixed martial arts skill set. So I like Dern to win that, but I think she's going to be a very big favorite. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight, and it is going to be Karolina. Well, it was going to be, damn it, Chris Gutierrez versus Montel Jackson. This was going to be such a good fight, but hopefully Montel heals up quickly from the injury that he sustained, and we'll be able to see him in the cage sometime soon. Chris Gutierrez next week will be fighting Fight Ready product Haley Alatang. All right, and then what we're going to talk about now, though, is Karolina Kowalkiewicz going up against the Warrior Princess Diana Belbita. We've got Kowalkiewicz, a decent-sized favorite here at minus 163. Belbita plus 143 is the underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision. Plus 275, big plus money number. Bookies definitely think that this one is going to decision. So let me get my notes up here, and we're going to first start talking about Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She's the more experienced fighter. Both ladies have 22 professional fights. However, Karolina has over 60 more minutes of cage time and 2 more years as a professional. And KK also has the UFC experience advantage with 10 more fights and 130 more minutes of octagon time. Karolina is a skilled striker. She's been in there with some of the best fighters in the division, and she has a negative 0.19 distance striking differential with above average volume at 16 distance strike attempts per minute. And she lands almost 6 distance strikes per minute, so she stays busy, and her defense is above average for the division at 62.7%. She does a great job of staying out of range while moving laterally, then exploding into range, throwing in combination, and then exiting before her opponent can counter. She's at a 4-inch reach disadvantage here. So being able to close range against Diana at distance is going to be very important. And Karolina's proven that she has the ability to do that with her in and out style. And Karolina's been very efficient in the grappling exchanges. She's attempted only 13 takedowns in the UFC, and her opponents have attempted 56. But Karolina still wins almost 41% of the control time positions that she's been in. She has above average 77% takedown defense on 56 attempts against. In addition, Karolina has 3 career wins by submission, and Diana has been subbed 4 times as a professional, including once via armbar from guard from the 1 win, 3 losses in the UFC, Liana Jojua. So I believe if Karolina did want to mix in the grappling here, or if she found a way to get to top position or to Diana's back, she could find some success going that route. We just can't really count on her to do that, to be offensively grappling here. And Karolina has fought, beaten, and lost to the better brand of competition at the UFC level, and it really isn't even close, you guys. Now, Diana, she's tall and long for the strawweight division, and she's almost 11 years younger than Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She's 4 inches taller, and she's got a 4-inch reach advantage here. Diana comes from a kickboxing background, and she stays very busy at distance striking range, and she does a solid job of using her kicks and jab to maintain range. She keeps that chin tucked, and she throws her punches straight. Diana lands a whopping 8.92 distance strikes per minute on 22.08 attempts. You can see that, she's landing 3.91 more than the divisional average, and she's attempting almost 9 more strikes per minute than the divisional average for every minute that she spends at distance striking range. She's got above average 40% accuracy and 58.6% defense. She doesn't have power at this level, but she tries to win minutes with her volume and by avoiding being dropped. She does a decent job of winning minutes at range by attempting 5 more distance strikes per minute than her opponents do. And with her positive 1.86 distance striking differential, while Karolina's is negative 0.19. But her lack of power and moment winning ability can certainly hurt her in close fights. This is an interesting matchup. Could be a potential passing of the torch scenario here, as Diana is also a 22-fight veteran of the sport, like Karolina is, but she's almost 11 years younger. She's 4 inches taller. She's got a 4-inch reach advantage, and on average, she's been busier at range than her opponent has been. Karolina has only attempted 13 takedowns in her 15 UFC fights thus far, so even though I favor Karolina in the clinch, and especially on the mat here, I'm not sure the fight is that likely to go there because neither of these ladies attempt many takedowns. On the other hand, is Tan Karolina Kowalkiewicz the new mythical creature in the women's strawweight division? Karolina came out looking pasty as shit in the Jessica Penne fight. And what happened? She got subbed in the first round after an ill-advised voluntary entering of Penne's guard, and it looked like she might be ready to make a graceful exit from the sport. Since then, she's moved her training camp to South Florida. She's acquired a George Hamilton-esque tan that frankly looks phenomenal. This lady should be a copper tone model right now. Her skin is absolutely incandescent, you guys. It's beautiful. Here, actually, I've got this up here, right? So this is Karolina Kowalkiewicz before the Jessica Penne fight here. You see that pasty kind of skin tone, right? But then let's look at her in the I believe this is the Silvana Gomez Juarez fight here. Look at that tan. Looks great, right? Look at her here. And this is the Gomez Juarez fight. Look at that tan. I mean, perfect skin tone. She's getting a ton of vitamin D. She's smiling. She looks like she's in the prime of her life. That does not look like a 37-year-old woman right there. And then this is her in the most recent fight. That skin tone also rocking it. I mean, she's absolutely killing it with the George Hamilton-like tan. That vitamin D, the South Florida sun, ladies and gentlemen. Karolina is on a 3-fight winning streak, and I think it has something to do with how much sun she's getting. So that's just a little bit of extra analysis there for you guys. But you know, she's looking to make it 4 in a row against Belbita. And right now, Karolina is around a -163 favorite. But if this fight takes place at distance striking range and it's a kickboxing match, I think it's a little bit closer than that. However, Karolina does mix the martial arts here. If she clinches up, if she maybe gets a takedown or two and gets to a dominant position, she could potentially find a sub, or at the very least, use those positions to win a dominant round or two. I think this line is right about where it should be. As long as Karolina's skin looks as incandescent as it has in her last 3 fights at the weigh-ins this week, I'm confidently picking this new mythical George Hamilton rejuvenated version of Karolina Kowalkiewicz to get the unanimous decision win here over the Warrior Princess, Indiana Belbita. Let's see what you guys are saying here in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, dude, that's we got Daniel Covert in the room saying yo-yo, and Moy is saying Andrade has already made $1+ million this year. She's smart, yes. And what's the point of fighting for your life for much less money than that when you can just show up for checks, take an ass whooping, and then bank that check and do with it what you want? How do I feel about a sub prop in this women's affair? I don't mind it for Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I think she's a lot more likely to get a sub here. Belbita, 4-4 to the sub in her career. Karolina, 3-2 to the sub in her career. So they're definitely more likely to lose by submission than anything else. So I think if there's a way that this fight does end, it's much less likely that it's by knockout than it is by submission. So potentially fight to end by submission could be an interesting prop here, or just Karolina Kowalkiewicz by submission. Glenbot saying KK still -200 here. Wow. Can't bet on that on every fight with this much of an age gap too. Yeah, you're in Europe, so you got the Polish fighter. Well, the Polish fighter fighting the Romanian fighter. So you'd think that there would be any kind of bias that would be even, but -200 is too much. We got Nick is in the room saying, how's it going, Uncle? What's up, Nick? Good to see you in here hanging out. We got Daniel saying Belbita on OnlyFans. I don't know if she is or not, but it would be a fade if she was, right? Glenbot saying KK at AT&T, so I think the game plan should be on point. Yes, absolutely. KK, with the eyes there, and yeah, for sure. I mean, without a doubt, man. It's for that Florida tan. Yes, absolutely, man. I mean, look at her. Look at how good she looks, dude. Look at that tan there. Look at that tan there. I'd be smiling too if I had a tan that good. This is how she looked in the Penne fight. I mean, still decent skin tone, but are we going to compare it to that? No, sir. So, man, she shows up looking tan at those weigh-ins again. She's probably a parlay piece, ladies and gentlemen. And Kristen, she's agreeing with us, saying the power of nature is no joke. Great insight. It is. Do that South Florida sun. It can give you a little bit extra, ladies and gentlemen. Pyfer doesn't have a tan. Fade him, and neither does Alex Morono. They're both going to get smoked as a result of that. She's got the tan, but not Yanni the Greek's teeth. Well, maybe after she retires from fighting, then it's safe to go get those capped teeth like Charles Oliveira has. I mean, like Charles Oliveira has a smile that'll just absolutely light up the room, just like Yanni the Greek. So, yeah, you combine Karolina Kowalkiewicz's smile with Yanni the Greek or Charles Oliveira's teeth, and you've got, a new 2020s version of the silver screen classic, one very handsome man in George Hamilton. So, yeah, absolutely, you guys. There's a lot of reasons to like Karolina here. It's the Red Union form. It's blonde hair on the shoot to box fighters. They get 10% more fighting. That could be, man. But we've seen Mateus rock blue hair before, so we'll have to see if it comes out blue, if it comes out blonde, another color. Mateus could surprise us. George Hamilton or George Michael definitely George Hamilton. His is a little bit better than George Michael, but George Michael had a beautiful head of hair on him for sure. Another Greek guy there. The Greeks have given many gifts to the world. One of them is the silky smooth voice of George Michael. I'm going to start an OnlyFans, says Daniel Covert. You heard it here first. That D for sure. Uniforms. Okay. You were talking about the uniform. There we go. All right, you guys. Let's get on to this next fight, as it's going to be Philipe Lins at plus 132 going up against Ewan the Hulk Cutelaba minus 152. Fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 325 for this fight. So let's do we have these stats up here? I got Hernandez Algeo. I guess we've switched this up again. So yeah, Lins Cutelaba. Those are the stats there. Oh no, you know what? We are gonna do. God damn it, they changed this order. This is pissing me off. Okay. Let's talk about Lins versus Cutelaba. Let's see here. Evidently, this fight order got changed, so my notes are in a different order than what we got on UFC stats right now, so it's messing me up a little bit. But Philipe Lins is going to be the bigger dude here. He's 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage over Ewan. And he's got 40 more minutes of pro cage time, and he's got 6.5 more years as a pro fighter. And Philipe is dangerous on the feet. He's got 9 career wins by knockout, which is 53% of his total pro wins. And when he lets his hands go, he can definitely hurt you if he lands. He went out there with total disrespect for Ovince St. Prue's skill set in their matchup, shaved his ass. So this guy can definitely hurt you on the feet if you are not careful. And Philippe is a BJJ black belt. And while he's not the better wrestler, he's more likely the more dangerous submission grappler in this matchup, as Lins is 4 wins and 0 losses in his career to the submission, while Cutelaba is 2 wins and 4 losses to the submission. So Philippe averages 1.55 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he showed 100% takedown defense thus far, though it's only on 4 attempts against. He will probably see that many from Cutelaba in the first round of this fight. So we're going to find out a lot more in this fight about Philipe Lins's takedown defense, because we really haven't seen it tested thus far here at the UFC level. Now, Ewan Cutelaba is 8 years younger than Philipe Lins, so that's statistically significant. That is a nice advantage to have. And he's been the much busier pro fighter. He's got 6 more pro fights than Lins, even though Lins has 6.5 more years as a pro. So while Lins fights just barely more than once a year, Ewan is fighting about 2.5 times a year. And Cutelaba also has the UFC experience advantage, as he's got 10 more UFC fights and almost an hour more of octagon time in comparison to Philipe Lins. And Ewan is by far the more opportunistic finisher. He's got an 88% finish rate in 17 pro wins, 2 by submission, 13 by knockout, compared to a 77% finish rate for Lins as a pro, which is 4 submissions and 9 knockouts. And Ewan has finished 4 of his 6 UFC wins, all by knockout, while Lins has only finished 1 of 3 of his wins, and that came against the rotting corpse of Ovince St. Preux. Ewan has crazy power on the feet. He's only landed 2 knockdowns in 15 UFC fights, but 4 of his 6 UFC wins come by way of knockout, and he's hurt several guys with his striking without actually dropping them. Ewan has average distance striking metrics. He's not very accurate or defensively responsible, but he hits very hard and he stays busy, so that makes him dangerous. And Iwan has a high-level Sambo background and Greco-Roman wrestling background, and he's very active winning minutes with his wrestling and grappling. Iwan gets 4.75 takedowns per 15 minutes on 8.1 attempts. He outcontrols his opponents 26% to 15%. That's winning about 63% of the control time positions that his fights are in. And he's always aggressive trying to finish fights. And if he gets on top of you, his ground and pound is very difficult to deal with. Now, Iwan has fought the way better brand of competition at the UFC level, and it really isn't even close. Cutelaba has 8 UFC losses, but the combined records of the guys who beat him in the UFC are 70 wins and 34 losses. So he's losing to the best guys in the division, like Jared Cannonier, Glover Teixeira, Magomed Ankalaev twice, Ryan Spann, Johnny Walker, Kennedy Nchekwu. All of those guys probably destroy Philipe Lins. So I think the high level of competition the 29-year-old Cutelaba has fought thus far in the UFC will serve him well in this test against Philipe Lins. This is a fascinating, fun fight. On the Lins side, I like the power. I like that he's got on the feet. I like the minute winning ability in the clinch game. I like the conditioning and the submission grappling. But on the Cutelaba side, I like the youth. I also like the power, the upper body Greco-Roman wrestling style that is a high percentage and effective way to get fights to the ground, and the GN and the ground and pound that he drops once he gets fights there. Both of these guys do an excellent job of finding moments to finish fights wherever the fight goes. 28 out of 34 of their combined pro wins, which is 82%, come inside the distance, and 12 of their combined 14 professional losses are finishes. Lins is 4-1 in decisions in his career, while Cutelaba's 2-1-1. So I do favor Lins's minute winning and conditioning if this fight gets out of the first. So I'm going to have to pick Lins to get the job done here. And even though it's not the most likely outcome, my official pick here is going to be Philipe Lins to win this fight by decision, which is currently available on BetOnline Sportsbook at plus 450. So we had Karolina Kowalkiewicz winning this fight by decision. And then the next fight, we got Philipe Lins. I'm picking to win also by decision. I just got a feeling that the way Lins wins this fight is by kind of leaning on Iwan early, getting him into that clinch, wearing on him. And then in the second and the third, maybe trying to find that big shot, but also mixing in his striking and trying to wear him out to where Iwan is just not nearly as dangerous in the second and the third rounds. And we've seen Lins go out there against guys like Prochnio, who's easy to finish, and he couldn't finish him. He's got 2 of his 3 wins are decision wins, and we're seeing him against Grishin, against Prochnio, kind of use that clinch game to win minutes and then land the better shots at distance. So I'm actually picking him, even though it's not a likely path. I'm going with Lins by decision here, you guys. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. George Michael is better. The better Peach. Yeah, he did have a perfect ass. You know, it was a perfect circle. Covert saying "Careless Whisper" is the greatest song of all time. Yeah, and his haircut in that video is really perfect. It's perfect hair. It's the perfect hairstyle. Yeah, it's really George Michael at his prime. Twitter War of the Week. Yes, this is this one is a back and forth one. People are talking about it a lot. I did a remix on my channel of that song. Ooh, very interesting. I'm going to have to check that one out. George Michael was the best male singer of the 80s. Fight me. I can't think. Maybe Boy George. Maybe Boy George. Now, I like George Michael's music better than Boy George's music, but Boy George, phenomenal singer, truly phenomenal singer. And he had a really good band behind him, too, actually. But yeah, 2 great singers there. Don't remix Gold, says Daniel. Who's on the carousel this week, says Glenbot. And Daniel Covert saying, I have to block you now, Moise. Pretty sure it's better. More open and sacks placed at right channel. Elias Girl from Ipanema. There you go. Very nice. Hashtag, you can hear Dean Estes bass better. All right, there you go. I'm going to remix your face. It's Daniel. Ion round 1 auto bet. He's always so dangerous in round 1. I think Lynn's live bet after round 1, I think is a good idea, Daniel. Damn, he beat OSP. Yeah, he beat the shit out of OSP. Is Cutelaba smart enough to actually use the experience he gained fighting those better guys? That's an excellent question, Remdog. Dude, Cutelaba makes so many mistakes. He makes mistakes, and whenever he does, he pays for them. So we're going to find out. Iwan's still young. He's not even 30 years old yet. So we can expect improvements from him. He's got to get better. But I like the plus money. I got one unit on Lynn's here at plus 135. You guys, I think it's a good bet. I think that these guys are both dangerous early in fights. But I've seen Lynn's put together game plans where he can win minutes, where he can get into that clinch, where he's making decisions about how to attack his opponent's weaknesses. And I think that if there's one guy that's the better minute winner here, it's going to be Lynn's. So I'm picking him to win, and I've got him at plus 135. Iwan is with Eric Nixick for the last 2 fights. He got a win and a loss. And I mean, he's going to have to be with better coaches. There's no question about it. He makes too many mistakes, but he's too talented. If he's with coaches that are going to, round out his game and, give him paths to victory, he's too talented for that not to improve him. Cutelaba's low IQ. Yeah, he is. He has been thus far. He's got to shake that up. Who's at Fusion Excel? I don't think either of these guys are at Fusion Excel. I think Lynn's is at ATT, and I think Cutelaba's at Extreme Couture. Yes, Weezy, I have a Lynn's bet, says Dixon. Yeah, I do too. 135. Teddy Pendergrass, El DeBarge, great vocals too. Teddy Pendergrass, amazing vocals. I couldn't agree more. One of my favorite singers of all time, Teddy Pendergrass. Glimbot saying Freddie Mercury for me, an 80s singer. Yeah, that makes sense too. The guy's got had an amazing voice. What about El DeBarge? El DeBarge had one of the greasiest haircuts I've ever seen. Not really a fan of El DeBarge's music. Good vocals, but for me, yeah, he would be lower down on the list because that greasy-ass jerry curl that he had was just so difficult to look at. Yeah. And then we got Kid Kick in the room saying Freddie Mercury. All right, you guys, let's go on to this next fight as we are to the main card now. And we're going to talk about Alexander the Great Ape Hernandez at plus 125 going up against Senor Perfecto Bill Algeo, the favorite at minus 145. Fight doesn't go to decision for this one, minus 135. So let's get back to Hernandez Algeo here. And let's talk about this fight. So, go back in time now. There we go. So, we're going to first start talking about Alexander the Great Ape Hernandez here. And the advantages that he has over Bill Algeo. Now, Alex is 3 years younger than Bill. He's got the UFC experience advantage with 4 more fights and 10 more minutes of octagon time. And Alex has legit power. He's landed 3 knockdowns, and he has 3 UFC wins by way of knockout. He's landing a knockdown on almost 1% of the distance strikes that he lands. At distance striking range, Alex does his best work when he's the one pressuring. He throws his punches straight to the target, and they land heavy. He mixes in body and leg kicks well, but if you can pressure Alex, that's when you can make him look bad. Alex has a positive 0.12 distance striking differential, 37% accuracy, 61% defense. And the 61% defense is a little bit above average. And he spends almost 78% of his octagon time at distance striking range, and he's comfortable there. He trusts his power. He trusts his chin. And Alex has done a nice job of mixing in the wrestling to win minutes. He gets 1.38 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he outcontrols his opponents 14% to 8.5%. He's winning about 62% of the control time positions his fights have been in, about 5/8. Algeo's got 54% takedown defense, and he's allowed 27.5% control time to his opponents. So Hernandez would be smart to mix in a little wrestling at the end of every round to try to leave a good impression in the minds of the judges here. And Alex has fought beaten and lost to the more experienced, better win-loss ratioed competition in the UFC, and he has 4 more fights at the UFC level. So I'd say Hernandez does have a solid strength of schedule advantage here, according to my metric. Now, Bill Algeo is 3 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. And he's a switch stance fighter, fighting an orthodox fighter, so that's an advantage on paper as well. But you will see Alexander Hernandez switching stances as well, just not as much as Bill does. And Bill has the overall experience advantage here. He's got 4 more professional fights and about 100 more minutes in the pro cage, in addition to 6 more months in the fight game in comparison to Hernandez. And Bill Algeo is extremely durable. He's been finished in 2 of 7 pro losses, but they were both by submission, and they came back in 2012 and 2014. The 2014 submission loss for Bill Algeo was to Shane Burgos in CFFC 42. He's never been knocked out in his pro career, nor has he even been dropped in the UFC. So Bill Algeo can trust his chin. He's a very durable dude. Bill's a volume striker and a pace monster. He can stay in your face because he can trust his chin, and he can wear on you with volume and forward pressure when he chooses to use that forward pressure. Bill attempts 16.38 distance strikes per minute. That's 4.37 more than the divisional average. He's landing 7.94, which is 3.17 more than the divisional average. And he has a 1.93 distance striking differential with way above average 48.5% accuracy. His 54.5% distance striking defense leaves a lot to be desired. But like I said, he trusts his chin. And Bill's an efficient grappler. He's 7 wins and 2 losses to the sub in his career. He's attempted 12 takedowns in the UFC, and his opponents have attempted 48. So while only attempting 20% of the takedowns in his fights, Bill still manages to win over 43% of the control time positions. So even though Bill stops takedowns at a way below average 54%, he's got a great get-up game, and he has the ability to get reverses and hold his opponents down when he's the one on top. So on the Hernandez side, I like the youth. I like the UFC experience advantage that he has. I like the power that he has. I like the wrestling that he has and the strength of schedule advantage. And on the Algeo side, you got to love the length, the height, the conditioning, the durability, the output, and the opportunistic submission game that he has. I think these guys are really well matched, and Vegas seems to agree. Hernandez is going to have to fight smart to utilize his advantages. He needs to pressure and intelligently mix in the wrestling, but be careful not to gas himself out trying to wrestle too much, because Alex will be the more powerful striker on the feet, especially if he's the one pressuring. Algeo does a really good job of reacting to his opponent's game plans and using his well-rounded skill set to find the holes, uses conditioning and durability to wear on his opponents. And we've definitely seen Hernandez slow down late in fights. So I could see Algeo using that pace, that volume, that conditioning to potentially break Hernandez late. But what I think Bill is missing is the power to make Hernandez fuck off with the pressure. And if he can't do that, I think that Alex is going to be the one staying in his face, landing the bigger shots. And if Alex doesn't feel pressured enough to panic wrestle, I think Alex can do the better work on the feet, land the crisper, more powerful shots, while optically looking better because he's the one walking forward, throwing the heavier shots. So I'm going to count on the Great Ape to fight a smart fight here and to win this fight by decision. So the pick is Alexander the Great Ape Hernandez to win this fight by decision over Senor Perfecto Bill Algeo. Suburban Philadelphia, stand up. Bill Algeo out of King of Prussia, Philadelphia, or not Philadelphia, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Let's see. We got Remdog saying, oops, my mix-up, different X camp. Yes, there are 2 X camps there for sure. Extreme Couture and Fusion XL. Remdog saying, Bill leaves his hands so low, he trusts his chin. Yeah, for sure. He does. Michael Jackson, though, yeah, great vocalist for sure. We got Fender Jazz in the room saying good day from Ottawa, Canada. Weezy, good to see you in here, Fender Jazz. Thanks for hanging out. We got Glenbot saying, do you think Bill's movement and angles to move in and out will be curtailed by the smaller cage, so he might not be able to hit and move like he would in the bigger cage? So less of the weaponized cardio. Yeah, I do. Bill will definitely thrive more in a bigger cage here because of the way that he fights. And I think that's another reason to like Hernandez here in this small apex cage. So I don't have a bet on Hernandez yet, but we will talk about that shortly though. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight. It is going to be, let's see what we got in the banners here. Drew Dober versus Ricky Glenn. So let me get these stats up here for you guys. There we go. Drew Dober, a big favorite, minus 425. Ricky Glenn on the comeback, plus 325. Fight doesn't go to decision at minus 260 for this one. So let's first start talking about Drew Dober. He's the more experienced fighter. He's got 8 more pro fights, 50 more minutes in the pro cage. Drew's also been the busier fighter. He's accrued that experience advantage over Glenn in 3 less years as a pro fighter. And Drew also has the UFC experience advantage with 12 more fights and 65 more minutes of octagon time. Drew's the better finisher at the UFC level. He's got a 75% finish rate in 12 UFC wins. He's got 8 knockouts and 1 submission, compared to only a 25% finish rate for Ricky Glenn in 4 UFC wins. And Drew comes from a Muay Thai kickboxing background, and easily his best MMA attributes are his power, his forward pressure on the feet, and his ironclad chin. That is a great combination of attributes to have in this business. Drew has 8 UFC knockdowns in 21 fights. He's landing a knockdown on over 1% of the distance strikes that he's landing, exactly 1.34%. And he's 13 wins and 2 losses to the knockout in his career as a professional. And he's 8 wins and 1 loss to the knockout in the UFC. Drew doesn't have eye-popping distance striking metrics, but what he does so well is bringing that constant forward pressure, backing his opponents up to the cage, and then going headhunting when they are backed up too far and cornered. Drew has way above average volume and power numbers, and his durability and ability to be able to take a punch puts him in scenarios where he has the luxury to pressure and wait for that big fight changing shot to land. Now, Ricky Glenn is 6 months younger than Drew Dober here, and he's going to be 4 inches taller. He's a well-rounded fighter. He really does have power, though, and he doesn't get enough credit for that because it hasn't shown off in flashy ways thus far in the UFC outside of the Joaquin Silva fight. Ricky is 13 wins and 1 loss to the KO in his career. So this dude actually has a better knockout record than Dober does. And Ricky has 3 UFC knockdowns in 9 fights, and he's landing a knockdown on 1.28% of the distance strikes that he's landing. And that number is right on par with Dober's. And Glenn's grappling efficiency numbers are solid. He wins almost 43% of the control time positions his fights have been in, despite only attempting 22% of the total takedowns in his fights and attempting percent of the total takedowns in his fight and attempting 39% of getting 39% of the total takedowns. So Ricky has showed off some excellent top control and ground and pound in the Tucker fight and in the 3rd round of the Dawson fight. He's a menace if he gets on top of you. So if Ricky can get a takedown or 2 and find his way to a dominant position, he will be able to win minutes and potentially moments versus Dober on the ground. And according to my metric, even though Dober has way more UFC fights, on average, Glenn has fought and beaten the slightly more experienced and better win-loss ratioed competition. So both of these guys are coming off the first knockout loss of their career in the UFC. And I wonder how that will affect this fight. Throw out those last 2 results, and these guys are a combined 26-1 to the knockout in their careers. Both guys have big power, and my read is definitely that someone is going to get served here. Ricky looked awful in his last fight against Yagos, and I think that there's a shit ton of recency bias in this line. Dober is tough. He's got a ton of power, but come on, man. Minus 425, really? The combined UFC records of the guys Dober is beaten is 56 wins and 66 losses. This guy isn't a world beater, and he's actually 6 months older, and he's got a lot more tread on the tires compared to Glenn. Glenn has taken 2 years off recently, and before that, he took like a 3 or a 4 year break. So he's actually kind of fresh for a 34-year-old. So, I mean, I do love Dober's pressure and power, and I do think he gets the job done here by knockout in the second round or maybe even the first. But Glenn is also dangerous. He could mix in the wrestling, and if he's successful doing that, I can assure you he'll look a hell of a lot better than plus 325 here. Glenn also has similar power numbers to Dober in the UFC, so no way I'm going to lay that juice on Dober. I think if you're betting Dober, you're betting the knockout prop, because that's how he's going to win this fight if he does win it. But if it's moment winning, you know, Dober is 7-6 to the decision in his career. He's 3-3 to the decision in the UFC, and it's the same as Ricky Glenn, you know? So I kind of feel like if Dober's not landing heavy shots here, this is anybody's fight. But Dober, with that pressure, you know, with the way that he does look to headhunt, I think he will eventually find that big shot and knock out Ricky Glenn. And I'm picking him to do it in the second round. All right. So Drew Dober by KO in round number 2 against Rick the Gladiator Glenn. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Yippee Kaye in the room saying, oh, yeah, Weezy. Thanks for always providing us simple folks with the insight, helping us make them great safe picks and letting us stack those cash like flapjacks, brother. I appreciate you for hanging out, man. And we've got Glenbot saying Drew is one of my favorite fighters, but the line is wide and still minus 450 here. But I think maybe a more timid Drew by decision for a poke. And it's not the, yeah, because he did get knocked out for the first time in his career. And, you know, and frankly, he does trust his chin entirely too much. I mean, you look at somebody who's supposed to be a high-level striker, but he's only got 55% distance striking defense and only 35% accuracy. You know, those numbers are both far below average for the division. You really want to see somebody doing better work than that, you know, overall, because if you're laying minus 450, you know, you got to know that they can win minutes as well as moments. And Drew takes a lot of punishment. He absorbs a lot of damage. It's just not safe to assume that this dude is going to win minutes. But I think that if somebody finds a knockout here, and it's got to be Dober, right? It's got to be him. Yeah, and Rendog's saying he's thinking about taking a poke at the over. Yeah, when you do that, you know, you got to be prepared and know that there's a good chance you're going to look like a moron for doing it. But when you're getting those big plus money numbers, you can't be afraid of looking like a moron. Every once in a while, your read's going to tell you, yeah, you know what? I'm going to take a shot on this. And if you look at the over, how it's priced, the over 2.5 rounds at plus 174, that's a 36.5% implied probability. 16.8% more of lightweight fights go over that number. 53% in the division go over. For Dober, 6 of 21, but for Rick Glenn, it's 7 of 9. So you add that up, it's 13 of 30, 43.33% of, or I'm so, yeah, 43.33% of their fights go over 2.5 rounds. We're only paying 36% on the line. So we're getting a little bit of a break there. And if Dober and Glenn are both a little bit more cautious because they're coming off their first knockout losses, for Dober, I mean, I think he got knocked out once a long time ago. But yeah, it's not the worst idea, and the price is right. And we got Tajik Bey, the GOAT, in the room saying, "Oi!" Now that he's in Europe, I think he's probably one of the people that can't watch me live when I go live at 10 o'clock Central Time. But hey, a noon start on a Wednesday, most of you European folks can handle that. So I appreciate you being in here. Thanks for hanging out, Tajik Bey. Good to see you hanging out live. It's been a while, man. And yes, and GOAT is in the chat, says Glenn Bot. All right, you guys, we've just got a couple And Tajik Bey says he can't donate from here either. Yeah, I mean, it's all right, man. It's good to have you hanging out in here. I appreciate you. Yeah, man. And you know what? When you donate on YouTube, you're really just donating to Google anyway. They take 55% of any donations that they send, that you send me. They take 55% before they give me a penny of it. So yeah, man, it's no big deal. I just love having you guys here. It really does mean a lot. So let's move on to this next fight. It is going to be Alex the Great White Morono going up against Joaquin Buckley. We've got Morono as a plus 147 underdog. Buckley minus 172 is the favorite. And the fight doesn't go to decision here. Juiced up to minus 210 for this fight. So let's first start talking about the Great White here, Alex Morono. He's got the experience advantage. He's got 10 more pro fights, 85 more minutes in the pro cage, along with almost 4 more years as a professional. And Alex has the UFC experience advantage with 8 more fights and 110 more minutes of octagon time. And Alex has been more durable as a professional. He's finished 3 of 8 pro losses. That's 38%. And 2 of 5 UFC losses, 40% of the time. While Buckley's been finished in 4 of 6, which is 2/3, and 3 of 4 UFC losses, 75%. I'll have to favor Morono's durability because he's also done it over a larger sample size against tougher UFC opponents. And while Joaquin and Alex have similar distance striking metrics, there are a few differences. It's Alex who's more accurate by about 10%, 40.6% to 30.1. And he has the better distance striking differential as it's positive 1.03 compared to positive 0.68 for Joaquin. And he's landing more distance strikes per minute at 5.6 compared to 4.09 for Buckley. Alex has a nice in and out style where he throws in combination when he's in the pocket, and then he uses his feet to get himself out of range after he's done throwing his offense. Kind of reminds me of what I saw on tape this week from Karolina Kowalkiewicz, only Kowalkiewicz, way better skin tone, way better tan. Alex Morono, I have to turn down the brightness on my TV when I tape his fights because it's when the light catches his skin just right, it can temporarily blind you. It's difficult, and especially on a big screen TV, that can be bad for your eyes for a man my age. So just got to be aware of that. But yeah, he kind of reminds me of Kowalkiewicz, the way he gets in, he throws in combination, and then he uses his feet to get him back out of range. And he's moving laterally when his opponent is trying to close the distance on him. And it suited him. That style of striking has suited him really well thus far in the UFC. This guy's got a 12 wins and 5 loss record in the UFC. And he's 8-3 in UFC decisions. So that style is working very well for him. And Alex is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but he keeps it in his back pocket as he rarely wrestles to try to get fights to the ground. However, if you take Alex down, when he's on his back, he has a very aggressive guard, and he'll work for that triangle armbar series. He will use some rubber guard and his guillotine as his favorite submission. So Alex mainly uses his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in reverse to keep fights standing. And Alex has fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced, better win-loss ratioed competition in the UFC over almost twice as big of a sample size of fights. In addition, the wins from Morono are quite a bit better than Buckley's, according to my metric. Now, Joaquin Buckley is almost 4 years younger than Alex, and he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here. And in addition, he's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup, and that's an advantage on paper as well. Joaquin's the more opportunistic finisher, and that is a result of him being an explosive athlete. Joaquin has finished 12 of his 16 pro wins, all by way of knockout, and he's finished 5 of his 6 UFC wins as well, so that finishing ability is translating at the UFC level. And Joaquin has power. He's landed 7 UFC knockdowns in 10 fights. He's landing a knockdown on 2.23% of the distance strikes that he lands, and he's the owner of perhaps the flashiest knockout in UFC history against Impa Kasanganay. And he's also got a mind-blowing head kick knockout in his last fight against Andre Fialho as well. Buckley's finished 5 of his 6 UFC wins by way of knockout, so we know that he's always live to land a big shot that changes the fight instantly. So it's an interesting striker versus striker matchup here. Power versus volume, athleticism versus process. I favor Morono's experience, his durability, his minute-winning abilities in the distance striking game, definitely his submission grappling, and his strength of schedule, while I like Buckley's youth, his knockout power, his athleticism, and his speed. Buckley looks like the part. You know, he's fast. He's explosive. He's powerful with a couple of highlight reel finishes, and he's on the right side of 30. And it looks like he's finally at the right weight class for him. But he's getting a tough veteran test here in Morono, who quietly racks up wins, boasting a 12-5 record in the UFC since 2016. Morono's 7 wins and 0 losses to the submission in his career. So it would be nice for once if we could see Morono actively look to implement his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game here, but we know we can't count on that from past performances. I'm going to have to go with the youth, the athleticism, and the power of Buckley here. I'm picking him to get the job done by second round knockout. So we're going to go New Mansa Buckley by KO in round number 2. A lot of these wins recently, you guys, for Alex Morono are against older gentlemen. Tim Means is an older gentleman. Ponzinibbio, who he was beating for about 2.5 rounds and then got caught, older gentleman. You know, the wins against Gall and Zawada, not that awe-inspiring. He kind of caught, what's his name? Donald Cerrone on his way out the door. But the win against Semmelsberger, I think Semmelsberger is a very similar opponent to Joaquin Buckley in what he does well. Semmelsberger has got a ton of power. He's an explosive athlete, and he kind of looks to land that big shot that changes the trajectory of the fight. And I think that this is going to be a similar fight for Morono. And we saw, you know, Morono do an excellent job against Semmelsberger, basically broke half of his face and won that fight by winning all the minutes and landing the bigger shots. So I don't think Alex Morono is out of his depth here at all. It's just that if I could count on Alex to do a little wrestling, to threaten that grappling game, I think he'd even be better on the feet. But I think because Joaquin's just going to be able to settle in and that Alex is going to let Joaquin just strike, I think the bigger, stronger, more explosive guy will find the big shot first here and get the win. But I'm not going to lay the juice on him here. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. All right. Let's see. Yes, definitely do have a Patreon, my man. The Patreon address is right here, Tajik Bey, patreon.com/Uncle Weezy. That's where you can get these stats. That's where you can get the prop template that has all the metrics for the division. It converts all the betting lines, the available betting lines, into implied probabilities. You can compare them against the benchmarks for the division and against the individual fighter performances. Great stuff, Tajik Bey. That's always a great way to be able to donate to my work as well. I appreciate you for asking that, my man. And Glenbot is saying, sup, Milo? And yes, he does, and it's great. And Glenbot would know he has been supporting since day one, man. And I appreciate you for that, Glenbot. And Tajik Bey saying he'll sign up. I appreciate you, my man. That's awesome here. Yeah, and let's see if I can actually change. Or yeah, you see the link on the bottom of the page there. And also the link is in the description of the video, Tajik Bey, as well. So you can check it there. Remdog saying, I tried to donate once, but it wouldn't let me. So I used the money to join the Patreon, and I couldn't be happier with the result. And that's the best way to support my work. Like I say, YouTube will take more than the half of it if you donate to me here. But if you join up on the Patreon, you're gonna get something for it as well, because you'll be getting the stats in return, and I'll be able to actually keep like excuse me, like 80 to 90% of what you donate through the Patreon, rather than 45% of what you donate through Google. But you got to think of it as well. Google's hurting for money, you guys. So you got to understand that when you do donate to the show here, 55% of it goes to Google, but they really need the money. Those guys at Google are starving. So please do consider donating to my show, because not only will I get some of it, but 55% of it will go to the folks at Google, and they are more pathetic than those dogs you see on the Sarah McLachlan commercial that need your donation. If there's anybody that needs your money, it's the good folks at Google, because they are really hurting for money. And Milo, the stats are, and I'll figure out how to share it. Yes. And we got shark season. So we're saying the great white shark for Moise. It's in Weezy's bio details on YouTube. Absolutely. And the stats are amazing. I appreciate that, man. And let's see, kind of worried that left high kick of Buckley might find the target against Buckley at Morono. You don't want to get hit with that kick. Just ask your guy Andre Fialio. Jesus, that was a nasty knockout. I gotta refresh this to 125 so we can get the numbers there. Alex jab is underrated and high level on the ground. He's very high level on the ground. He's got a very dangerous guard. My guy, the general, is in here taking notes. Good to see Alex Ramirez hanging out. Is it against TOS, or you put your Cash App in the description, Weezy? No, I actually did put my Cash App is in the description of this video as well. So you can always donate to the Cash App as well. Is it against terms of service? I really don't care if it is or not, but like I say, you guys, what you should really do is just donate directly to Google. Why should you donate, $10 to me, knowing that Google's only going to get $5.50 of it? You should just donate everything to Google. Like I said, if you think those dogs on the Sarah McLachlan commercials are pathetic, it's the folks at Google that really need your money. And Moy's audio in the room, saying General Alex, what's up here, you guys? All right, now that we're going to make sure that Google's algorithm will never show my videos again, let's break down the next fight of the night, which is going to be not Montana De La Rosa, but it is going to be Joe Body Bags Pyfer at minus 450 going up against Abdul Razak Alhassan at plus 350. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juice to the tits at minus 550. I love this fight. This is brilliant matchmaking. Power against power. First round finisher against first round finisher. Somebody's head is getting punted into the cheap seats and then put on a pike and passed around the raging Apex audience of 42 people. I can't wait for this fight. It is going to be so much fun. Let's get the stats up on the screen and first start talking about our guy, Joe Body Bags Pyfer. He's the bigger middleweight. Not only is he only 11 years younger than Abdul Razak Alhassan, but he's also 4 inches taller, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. And Joe is a natural finisher. He's finished 10 of his 11 pro wins, 2 by submission, 8 by knockout, and he's got massive natural power in both hands. In just his last 4 fights, we've seen him land a right hook knockout versus Austin Trotman, a picture-perfect left hook knockout versus Diaz on DWCS, a heavy overhand right knockout versus Alan Amadovsky, and he dropped GM3 with a nasty left and finished him with ground and pound. He's only been credited with 1 knockdown in the UFC, but it definitely looked like he dropped GM3 as well. Joe has a pretty solid overall boxing game at distance. We've seen him stay behind a jab, stay defensively responsible, and throw power combos in the pocket. But the version of Body Bags we've seen his last 2 fights in the UFC is a low-volume stalker who loads up and he waits to land with power, and he always finds that power shot, and it can come from either hand or either leg. Joe really trusts his power, and there isn't any reason for him not to. Joe is also a high-level grappler, training with the likes of Andre Petrosky and Sean Brady under the tutelage of John Marquez in Philly. We saw Pyfer's ability to wrestle and grapple in the Ozzy Diaz fight on DWCS, where he took Ozzy down, advanced position, and worked for an arm triangle, and used that to get to Ozzy's back with the body triangle in. He eventually got reversed, but he really did show some nice ability to mix in his wrestling and BJJ together there to win the first round of that fight. And we saw him get a nasty ground and pound knockout in his pro debut when he finished 2 of his first 3 pro wins by rear naked choke. So Joe definitely has a well-rounded skill set. He's not just a power puncher. And Joe only has 2 UFC wins so far compared to 6 for Razak. However, according to my metric, his wins rate better than Razak's, which makes sense because GM3 is definitely the best UFC win on either of these guys' resumes right now. But Abdul Razak Alhassan has the experience advantages here. He's got 4 more pro fights, 13 more minutes in the pro cage, and 4 more years as a pro mixed martial artist. He also has the UFC experience advantage with 9 more fights and almost 70 more minutes in the octagon. Razak is also a finisher with a 100% finish rate in 12 pro wins, all by knockout, 11 in the first round, and 1 in the second. This dude swings for the fences, and if he lands, you're going to get served. And Razak has the durability advantage here, as he's only been finished in 1 of his 5 pro losses, while Pyfer has been finished in both of his pro losses, one of them by freak arm injury, but the other time he got guillotined by Jonathan Pati on the regional scene. Razak's a menace on the feet. He's fairly accurate at distance, about 44.65%, and defensively responsible at 60.6%, but it's his power that sets him apart with a 100% finish rate by knockout, and he's landing a knockdown on over 4% of the distance strikes he's landed in the UFC, and all 6 of those wins came by way of knockout. And Razak has rounded out his game recently. He's showing the ability to grapple. He landed 3 takedowns and got over 3 minutes of control time in the 3rd round of the Buckley fight, and he got over 3 minutes of clinch control time versus Ribeiro in the first, and then knocked him out in the second. He's not just the guy who throws bombs anymore. He's showing the ability to shift gears, push through being tired, and use multiple tools like his judo black belt and clinch control game in order to be able to win minutes on his way to finding that big shot. This fight fucks, you guys. Plain and simple. 2 guys with massive power, willing to stand and bang. Somebody's getting served here early, most likely, and I can't wait for this fight. This is a top-notch matchmaking. The line is already blown out, though. Body Bags is a minus 475 favorite, and I get it. He's 11 years younger. He's 4 inches taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and it looks like he's just a little better everywhere than Alhassan right now. That being said, Razak's always dangerous, and even though he's already 38 years old, he has less than 100 minutes of pro cage time, and he seems to be as dangerous now as he's ever been. There aren't too many miles on the engine for him, and we know that if he touches you, you're fucked. Getting a fighter of that archetype at plus 350, plus 375 is very intriguing. I'm going to wait and see where this line goes, but if it gets any wider, I might actually take that fat plus money shot on Alhassan, who has shown a lot of improvement in his game since moving to Elevation Fight Team. The pick is Body Bags Pyfer by first round knockout, but I might take the shot on Alhassan here. Love the under 1.5 rounds, but it's probably going to open up juice to the tits, which it did. I wrote this before these lines came out, and I actually did bet at plus 360 a half unit on Abdul Razak's money line here, just because he's a guy that can knock anybody out. So Pyfer is not the type of guy that's going to shy away from a war here, and I think that he's going to give Abdul exactly what he wants. And if he does that, there's a good chance that Abdul is going to be able to land the bigger shot first here and get the win. So I took a shot, half unit at plus 360 for Abdul Razak Alhassan's money line here. But the pick, because he's hotter right now, because he's younger, because he's longer, and he's extremely confident, is going to be my guy Body Bags Pyfer here to win this by first round knockout. Like I said, I think someone's getting served, but my money's on Alhassan here. Small bet with a big potential return. So that's where we're going with this one. And let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Let's see. Y'all should definitely get on the Patreon. If you're not, though, it's worth it. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, there's a Discord where we talk fights. You get the stats. You get all my tracked bets. And it's a great way to support the work because, like I said, we don't really get a lot of support here from YouTube. We get next to nothing from them, actually. So, yeah, it is the best way to support the work. And Glimbot saying J-Bone knows. Yes, sir. We got Dims in the room. We got Glimbot saying, why does it feel like apple pie shitter of the week? It could be, man. And Tajik Bey saying he's a donation alert this week is Body Bags Pyfer. So we're going to have to see, man. Step in knee, round 1 KO on a takedown. It could absolutely happen. Both of these guys have got sick power. I also do trust Joe's power, but I hate this price. He might be the first fight I don't bet Pyfer, but he's been on a wagon. He's been a wagon so far. Yeah, he has. And I love Pyfer. He's a fun fighter. Milo giving us breaking news in Weezy's chat. Appreciate you, man. Thanks, man. We got Tajik Bey here. We got Glenbot with the glasses. We got Glenbot saying, is this the fight? Is it the shortest of the night? Yeah, probably. Probably this one or maybe Maness Mendoza. Maybe Lynn's Cutelaba. I think those are all chances that they're going to end early for sure, man. Joe has so much confidence, like cement belief in himself. Dude, like my guy Brady sent me something on Discord saying that, Pyfer said something to the effect of, yeah, either I'm going to knock him out or he's going to knock me out. Somebody's going to get knocked out early in this fight. But he goes, I hit harder than this dude. So I think he's going to get there, and I think he plans to prove that. I think he plans to prove that he hits harder than Abdul Razak Alhassan. And if that's what he really thinks, then yeah, I mean, why not take the shot at plus 350? If you're going to give Abdul the shot to land the big strike, he's going to be live. So it's going to be interesting here. Fender Jazz saying, you're so right, Weezy. This screams under. I'm wounded, though, for missing 2 unders by less than 2 minutes last night. That always hurts when that happens, man. Robert saying, do you list your official money picks anywhere? Yes. So they're definitely all on the Patreon, Robert. I have a in the Discord, I have a room called Weezy's Tracked Bets. So as soon as I make a bet, the first thing that I do is I list that bet in the Discord so that everybody can get on it. The second thing that I do is I go to Bet MMA Tips, where you can follow me here. I've got 160 followers on Bet MMA Tips, and my username there is Uncle Weezy. And all of my bets show up here too. If you go to profile and then you scroll down, like these are the tracked bets that I have for this card so far. So I post them for free on Bet MMA Tips, and I also post them on the Patreon. And we'll talk about the track bets that I have for this card thus far, right when we're done breaking down the main event. And Glimbot saying, Milo, do you choose your words? So A is telling multiple donations. I'll stay on vigil. And Dirty Reg saying, I hate playing both sides of the fence. Yeah, I mean, I hate it too, dude. I don't like playing both sides of the fence because it guarantees, that you're going to lose a bet somewhere. And that if you don't feel confident to pick one, then you probably shouldn't bet on the fight. So I agree with you on that one, Dirty Reg. I very rarely do that. I used to do that a little bit in the past. If you bet Razak it is. Yeah, and that's what I'm doing. I bet Razak, but I'm picking, Pyfer. I mean, like I think Pyfer wins this fight more often than not, but I got Razak at plus 360. So that means I got him at about a 21.5% implied probability. So he's only got to win this fight 1 out of 4 times for me to be plus EV. But if I think that that's the case, right? If I say, all right, Razak wins this fight 3 out of 10 times, then that still means Pyfer wins it 7 out of 10 times. So Pyfer is still the pick. It's just that sometimes when I got somebody at a 30%, I'm capping them at 30%, but the implied probability is 21, then that means I'm making a bet. Fender saying, I like Joe a lot, partly because we have the exact same problem, not being able to fully extend an arm. I think his is effed from the Stoltzfus fight. Yeah, I mean, that was a nasty injury. Yeah, and plus 350 is a big fat number for a guy like Abdul Razak, where it only takes one time that he touches you to end the fight. All right, let's get to this main event. We're already over 2 hours here. 54 of you in here live. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out. Thank you so much. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Please consider joining the Patreon, like my guy Tajik Bey was just talking about doing. And also, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you're betting on this card. Let me know what you like from my picks. Just say oi. But it always helps with the algorithm for you to just put that down there, have a little bit of engagement going. But now we're coming around to the main event of the evening. It is going to be Grant KGD Dawson going up against Bobby King Green. We've got Dawson a minus 425 favorite. King Green plus 325. Fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 250. Let's first start talking about Grant Dawson and his advantages in this spot. He's 7.5 years younger than Bobby Green. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage, and he's a switch stance fighter against an orthodox, so that's also an advantage on paper, but Green does switch stances at distance as well. Grant is the more opportunistic finisher as a pro with an 85% finish rate in 20 pro wins. That's 13 submissions and 4 knockouts. And he's got a 62.5% finish rate in 8 UFC wins. 5 of those 8 wins coming by way 4 of submission, 1 of knockout, 3 by decision. And Grant does a phenomenal job of using his grappling game to win minutes. He's 3-0-1 to the decision in his UFC career, and that's largely due to the fact that over 71% of his fights take place in control time positions, and Grant wins 89% of those positions. And Grant has the grappling advantage in this spot, obviously. He's outlanded his opponents 29-2 on takedowns, and he's averaging 3.77 takedowns per 15 minutes on 10.67 attempts, and he's winning 89% of the control time positions his fights have been in, amassing a mind-blowing almost 64% control time over a huge sample size of 9 UFC fights and 115 minutes of octagon time. Grant's a bona fide master of getting to his opponent's back and staying there for the rest of the round or getting a rear naked choke submission. 11 of Grant's 13 career submissions come by way of rear naked choke, so he's one of the most dangerous archetypes of fighter that there is in the UFC. A one-trick pony whose trick can't be stopped. I mean, think about it, right? Everybody knows exactly what Grant's going to do, but nobody can stop it. That's terrifying. Grant isn't fighting bums. The combined records of his UFC opponents is 41 wins and 31 losses. He's fighting good guys. Now, Bobby Green obviously has the experience advantage. He's a cagey, well-tested veteran with 46 professional fights, over 465 minutes in the pro cage, and almost 16 years in the game. Bobby also has 22 UFC fights since the year 2013 and 264 minutes in the octagon. So he's way more experienced than Grant Dawson. Bobby is the way more skilled striker, and it isn't even close. At distance over a massive sample size, Green has exemplary distance striking metrics. A positive 2.35 significant striking differential. Almost 49% accuracy, over 64% defense. He's landing a whopping 6.73 distance strikes per minute, and he stays busy, attempting 13.85. That's 2.42 more than the divisional average. Green is fast. He's got great head movement, and he's shown the ability to outbox really good strikers like Nasrat Haqparast and Drew Dober before he got caught, of course, and Lando Venata. He's been in there against like Fiziev and was really close against him in his striking match. So Grant will be out of his depth as long as this fight is on the feet. In addition, over a 264-minute sample size of octagon time, Green has been controlled for less than 10% of his sample size of minutes, and he's winning over 61% of the control time positions he's been in, despite the fact that his opponents have attempted 20 more takedowns than he has. So Bobby's shown the ability over a very large sample size of UFC fights that he can keep fights standing. And Bobby's fought the better brand of competition at the UFC level overall. the better win-loss ratio guys and more experienced guys over his 22 UFC fights. So Bobby Green is no stranger to fighting high-level guys. This week's main event is your classic striker versus grappler archetype. If Dawson gets the takedowns, gets the Bobby's back, he wins. And if Bobby stuffs the takedowns, keeps this standing, he wins. Grant's looked phenomenal since moving to American Top Team, and he looked great before that. This will only be his first UFC fight scheduled for 5 rounds. And for Green, it's only his second, the first being a short notice step up versus Islam Makhachev. Only 2 weeks removed from shaving the ass of Nasrat Haqparast on top of that. So only 2 weeks after he beat Haqparast, he's in there back again in the cage against Makhachev because Makhachev's opponent had to pull out. So the 5-round factor really plays in here because Grant has a very energy-heavy style, attempting 10.67 takedowns per 15 minutes and also throwing above average output while on the feet. So it'll be very interesting to see how his conditioning will hold up in the championship rounds. Green has never been 5 rounds in the UFC before, so we know Dawson is going to wrestle. It's reasonable to assume his cardio could also have problems in this scenario. I've seen opportunities for back takes against Green in the Guida and Moises fights that weren't taken advantage of by Guida and Moises, that I'm confident Dawson will take advantage of if he gets those same opportunities. We know Dawson is going to wrestle. I think he gets takedowns early. I think he gets the Greens back, and I think he wins by rear naked choke sometime in the first 3 rounds. Green is way more experienced. He's the way better and way faster boxer. He's fought the better brand of competition, and he already knows what Grant's game plan is going to be. But I don't think he's going to be able to stop it. And I think the difference in ground games here will be painfully evident early. Grant Dawson by 2nd round submission is the pick for this fight. Submission round 2. That's what I'm going with, you guys. We did it. We got through all 11 of these fights. We're going to get to the point right now where I'm going to show you my tracked bets, but right after we talk about what you guys are saying in the chat, Grateful Dude saying Weezy's Patreon has the best stats and it's worth the price of admission. I appreciate that, my man. Robert saying, are you doing a Saturday show for Parlay? I'm going to do a Friday show, Friday afternoon, same time probably is about now, maybe a couple hours later for the Greasy 4-leg parlay for this week. By the way, we've hit our last 2 Greasy 4-leggers here. We didn't have one last week because I was in Greece and wasn't able to put out a show, but yeah, we're going to be doing that. And I might even try to get an Ask Weezy in here maybe Thursday afternoon because I just can't stay up right now to the hours when I was usually doing it. And we got Alex saying, what's up to Moyes? Glenbot saying, sup, Grateful Dude. Also a great follow like Weezy and Tajik Bey for sure. Is Grant sub round 2 through 4 and Green KO 4 and 5 in decision spread worth it? I think so, dude. I think Grant sub 2 through 4 is probably when he gets a submission, maybe even in the first. And I think like a Grant Dawson round 1, 2, 3 bet might be a good way to look at it on FanDuel. And Green by knockout in round 3, 4, or 5, I think are going to be really fat numbers that are going to be good bets. So I like those a lot. And we got Sean V joining us saying, what's up to Glenbot in the room? All right, you guys, let's go over my tracked bets for this week. I've got 2 money line bets. It is Abdul Razak Alhassan for a half unit at plus 360. And we've got Philipe Lins at plus 135 over Ion Cutelaba for a 1 unit bet. I got that one on WilliamHill.com. And then I did 3 time prop bets here. We've got the Hernandez versus Algeo over 2.5 rounds. I got that at plus 125 for 1 unit. I also got the Maness Mendonca under 2.5 rounds for 1 unit at plus 115. And then I got Vanessa Demopoulos versus Kanako Murata. Fight doesn't go to decision. 1 unit on that at plus 190. And that's going to bring us to the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barkin pick of the week. I want to give you a nice fat plus money number that you can put just a little bit of money on that I think has got some decent value this week. Now, you guys know that I'm picking Alexander Hernandez to beat Bill Algeo this week, but Bill Algeo is a very durable guy. He's never been knocked out in his career. He's never been knocked down in the UFC. And Alexander Hernandez is not a particularly talented submission grappler. So I think if Hernandez does win this fight, that it's going to be by decision. Plus 335 is a nice fat number there. We're talking about something around a 22% implied probability. I think it's a really good chance that he gets the job done here. Algeo is not a guy who blows people out of the water. He doesn't have fantastic power, while Hernandez does. And I think Algeo is not really a pressure fighter. And if he allows Hernandez to be the one walking forward here, I think he's going to lose the minutes on the feet. And I think Hernandez is the better wrestler and more likely to win minutes in the grappling exchanges. So I'm going Alexander Hernandez by decision at plus 335 for this week's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barkin pick of the week. So I'm going to be betting that, but that's the bet online prop here. So I don't have that listed as an official bet yet this week because I think I'm going to be able to get plus 350 or better when this opens on DraftKings or FanDuel or William Hill. So that is going to be your Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barkin pick of the week. Looking to hit our first one. Grasso by decision was the last one. We came really close, wound up being a draw. And then we had Macdesi by decision the week before that. That one probably should have cashed, but it was a great bet, also around plus 350. But just we didn't get help from the judges there. Malarkey got the hometown decision. And that brings us to the last order of business of the week. It is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I almost didn't give one this week. I'm not very confident in any of these big favorites this week. Grant Dawson, it's his first 5-round fight. If he's not able to get a submission in the first 3 rounds, I could see maybe Green getting a knockout. If Pyfer decides that he's going to knock out Abdul Razak Alhassan, there's a chance that he could be the one that gets knocked out. There's a lot of big favorites on this card that I don't necessarily think deserve to be big favorites, at least not as big as they are. I really struggled to find a confident pick, but I do this every week. So I wanted to give you guys something, but I'm not particularly proud of this pick. And I don't necessarily think it's the best option this week because of the lines that are available here. But this week, here, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We've got Sean saying what's up to Glenn. We've got Glenn saying it's up to Sean. Villegas saying it's Philipe Lins for the ass shaving. Sean V says he likes Lins too. Glenbot says, I wasn't here for the Rosa fight. Any thoughts? Because I may have an interest in that fight. I'm picking JJ Aldrich to win by decision, but I'm not betting it. I think it's going to be a very close fight. We got Dober going to shave the chin of his opponent, says Villegas. Sean V is very confident in Drew Dober this week. Remdog saying, thanks, Weezy. Tuned in late, so you're going to go rewatch the beginning. Oi! And we got Fender saying, so your dog was named for bassist Bootsy Collins. Yes, he was. I named my Rottweiler after the great bass player of Parliament Funkadelic, Bootsy Collins. And we got Alex saying, Peaser is what he's saying. Fire. But I am going this week for the ass shaving of the week, Drew Dober to shave the ass of Ricky Glenn. Look, he let me down last time. I'm going back to the well. He couldn't beat Frivola. Frivola knocked him out, cracked his chin. Ricky Glenn looked awful the last time around. I really just, when I picture this fight in my head, I picture Dober marching forward, eating some big shots, but being the one that lands the big one here. Drew Dober by knockout. I don't even know if I can really. Drew Dober by KO is minus 185. I mean, that's really, I cannot. Look, This is a week where I'm picking somebody to shave ass that I would not dare bet at the money that is available right now. I'm just not confident about any of these big favorites, and I stopped picking female ass shavings of the week a while back, so that took me from 11 fights down to 8. And then we had some close fights, so that took me down to like 6. And yeah, I wish I had more confidence, to say like one of these underdogs was going to get it done and get it done violently. But I bet on Linz. I'm going to bet on Hernandez by decision. And I may even add a little bit on the money line as well. But yeah, this week's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, Drew Dober to shave the ass of Ricky Glenn. You guys, we've went entirely too long, 2 hours and 20 minutes. 51 of you's in here, still rocking live with your Uncle Weezy. I appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss out on any of the great content here on this channel. Please consider joining the Patreon and leave me a comment down below. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And we got Viegas saying Linz was my Bootsy memorial pick. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I am betting Linz, but I'm going with Alexander Hernandez on the much fatter line at plus 335. Tajik Bey likes Mendoza this week. Man, if he looks good on the scales, I think he's absolutely going to kill this dude. I'm just kind of waiting to see both of these guys on the scale before I pick this week. Sean V likes the Dober pick this week. My guy Zero likes Dober. Any fear in Dober's chin being gone? Yeah, I mean, maybe it might be cracked. It might be done at this point, but so might Glenn's. Really, Glenn just got knocked the fuck out by Christos Yagos. So, and I think that Dober has actually destroyed Christos Yagos, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe he hasn't. I forget. But either way, Glenn's a former 45er moving up to 55 now. Yeah, that is a possibility. It's one of the reasons I didn't like really anybody for the ass shaving of the week this week, but I truly do believe that that Dober's chin will hold up better than Glenn's at this point. Milos, yeah, Glenbat says he likes the pick for Mendoza. Murata versus Demopoulos. I missed it. Who do I like, Weezy? Sorry for misspelling. I like Murata a lot here, General. I think Demopoulos could get a mean submission, but I like the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 190, and I think Murata gets it done by submission. I think she's the first person to finish Vanessa Demopoulos. Viegas saying you don't like the PFL prices. Awesome work, Weezy. Thanks, man. Robert Saladino saying didn't realize you were in house music. 90s NYC club scene was insane. Twilo, Sound Factory, Tunnel, Palladium. Yeah, dude, in the 90s in Chicago, we had The Shelter, which was my favorite club to go to back in the day. Cabaret Metro, Smart Bar, always one of the best places to find some of the best house DJs in the country. Chicago, a great house music scene in its own. And all that you see behind me, Robert, is all my house music collection. General saying thanks. Glimbot saying thanks. Fender Jazz saying at a glance, it looks like PFL equals PEDFL. So they even try to police that. They have been more recently. They changed their drug testing policy from giving the fighters a piece of paper that says, have you used performance enhancing drugs? And then you were to check off either yes or no. But below that, it said, please be honest. They've changed it from that to actually piss testing the athletes, and evidently that's having a little more success finding the cheaters. Justin saying, great show, and Alex Ramirez saying, press the like. Appreciate all of you guys for watching the show. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 80. I'll be on Pub Sports Radio at 8 o'clock Central Time doing the DFS show, and then keep an eye out here tomorrow for some Ask Weezy, where you can ask me any questions about any of the fighters, fights, stats, lines on this card. Appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great day, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.